What can't be done, I'll do myself.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning. And you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to some of you. Did any of you guys catch the... Oh, I see some of you guys in the chat. I know you did. You caught the Schizo stream we did earlier. For those of you who are just showing up now and did not catch the Schizo stream earlier, well, I don't know how you're going to watch it. You can probably watch the replay on Kick. I know for sure it'll be there. I don't know where it'll be other than that. But we had a grand old time. Already been streaming for over 2 hours today. Took a little break, and now we labe. And this is not going to be a short one. This is going to be a late one. We'll see how late. We'll see just how late it is. But I'm expecting, probably 2 a.m. most likely, my time. But how you guys doing? It feels like I was just doing this, but no, it wasn't a labe. It was a mysterious thing called a Schizo stream. We had a grand old time talking about geocentrism, making fun of retarded physicists who are obsessed with their own delusions. Had a great time. Jeff Accordion says he's going to go to bed in 30 minutes. Well, sir, you will be able to catch the replay because I did hit record on this one. I remember to hit record. The last one I did, I got, I don't know, it was like half an hour into it before I realized I hadn't hit record. So I did get it hit this time. And I'll make sure I get it up there later. But I got to say, I said this at the beginning of the last stream, and for those of you who are catching this one, stay tuned. Go follow the King Pill Telegram to stay tuned. There's going to be some changes coming up soon in the structure of the show, something like that. I don't know, because I got a DMCA copyright claim notice through Substack from Spotify for some past episodes of the Labe. And I'm pretty sure it's because I had the EWBSX intro included in the recordings. They took them off, and I can appeal it. I need to go do something about it. I just kind of skimmed the email, but they said something about the account potentially getting deleted, and I really don't want to have my Substack account deleted. So I'm feeling very hemmed in, like the entire world is conspiring to try to keep the Labe down. And such things cannot happen. Totally unacceptable. We must Labe. And the nature of the Labe is that, there's gonna be stuff that other people's content. But here's the thing: I'm sharing it to a new audience, and I'm adding to it. In the case of the EWBSX stuff, we're literally paying for it. Music licenses are not cheap. Speaking of, make sure you guys send some crystals to the cyberbully, givesendgo.com/EWBSX. We are fundraising to cover some of our costs. Because we got a little bit of money to cover things for a period of time, but music licenses are not cheap, and the more people listen to them, the more expensive they get. So we've got some big bills coming up this next year to cover that. So if you want to contribute to that, send some crystals over to the cyberbully to keep the thing going. You can go to giftsandgo.com/EWBSX. But man, it feels like every time I start getting settled into a new rhythm of things, something sends me a curveball. We're not on YouTube anymore. We're not doing the stream on YouTube. I am uploading these afterwards, for the time being at least. I'm just waiting for YouTube to give me some more grief. And I'm starting to see people who aren't even in the political sphere who are posting videos about how the YouTube algorithm is broken, and it just seems like YouTube is hell-bent on pushing people off the platform. So, I don't know, man. I don't know if the audience is large enough now that I can go just to my own like proprietary platform. It's I gotta be somewhere where I can catch the eyeballs and draw an audience in. But I don't, man. What do I do? What do I do? Anyways. I heard from a couple of you guys about volunteering to help with some of the... we were talking last night on the stream, like, I need an assistant to handle some of the busy work and stuff associated with this, because I'm barely holding on as it is, just keeping up with the day-to-day stuff, and adding in new things to try to reach a new audience and push different types of content out and everything. I need a team of assistants, but a couple of you guys reached out, and I appreciate you for that. I will be in touch with you. Today has been rather wild, prepping for both of these streams And in the meantime, I've had a couple of tweets that have kind of taken off, so my notifications have been totally blowing up, and so I've just been kind of holding on for dear life and plowing through today. As soon as this lab is over, I'm gonna collapse. I'm gonna have to go through and catch up on all my notifications. So who knows what time we'll get to bed in the wee hours of the morning. But this is the life I have chosen. This is the career path that God has led me to. The show is everything. So we're going to keep doing the show. That's right, Bobby Ballbags. I need laborers. Where are my laborers at? Shout out to Caligulanis. What a name. With starting us off with the tip right here.
The white man is back, baby! The white man is back!
Don't be niggardly. Tip your fucking streamer.
That's right. Don't be niggardly. You cannot be a niggard. That reminds me, I need to... Don't forget to tip your streamer. Let me pin this in the chat. I have to shamelessly grift for the time being because this is my source of income. This is what keeps it going, enables me to keep doing this on a regular basis. So thank you to all of you for contributing to that.
Welcome to the Gulag. If you survive, you earn your freedom.
Speaking of, thank you, Screwed Up Nevsky, gifting a sub to Voidmick. Welcome, Voidmick. And that actually reminds me, there was some weird notification that came through earlier. I got those. This is actually a few days ago. It says Creek Dweller gifted 5 subs, and the subs went to Knight, Candle, Zexio, Fiber, spelled the Canadian way, and Asking. So I don't know if those are actually real. I'm not exactly sure what that is. I don't recognize any of those names, and it's kind of weird that they're all just one short word. But if those are real, well, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the subs. Welcome to those of you who received the gifted subs. Let's start us off with an Erica.
Auf der Heide blüht ein kleines Blümelein. Und das heißt Erika.
Oh, yeah, Screwed Up. I've never heard any of those users either. But, hey, if it means money in my pocket, I'll take it. If you guys are lurking, then do show your face. Announce yourselves. Welcome. Also, welcome to Ronald Trump 777, who followed a week ago. I forgot to mention that one. Ronald Trump 777 just made me laugh. And Erica Enjoyer as well. We love our Erica Enjoyers, don't we, boys? All right. So, let us get started. So let's see, what are we going to talk about today? Got some updated news on the issue of the day. The fatigue. The fatigue is reaching critical mass. I popped into my timeline a couple of times over the past several hours, and every single tweet on my timeline would have been effectively illegal just a couple of years ago. But people have had it. The whites are rising up, ready to reclaim their civilization. And I guess the question is that civilization going to be reclaimed, or are we going to sacrifice that civilization on...
White man is back, baby! The white man is back!
I've been doom scrolling Twitter all day. I'm no longer sure that diversity is our strength.
The Canadian is coming along. Thank you, Slosher. Yeah, no, it really does not seem like diversity is our strength. It's almost like we've been lied to. Yeah, Slutty Milk, one might say that the whites are gaining a consciousness. Isn't it fascinating how this works? This is perhaps the most poignant example of all time of being hoisted on one's own retard. They created this. They created this bed for themselves, and they're going to have to sleep in it. This story just hits. It just hits all the. It's almost surreal. It's almost like a story that was put together in a lab to just touch on every last issue. The X algorithm, the racial crime problem, the federal government's relationship to the states, the corruption of local and state governments, the NGO funding of anarcho-tyranny. We're going to talk a little bit about that. She's Ukrainian. In all of this, what's kind of surreal about all of this is she's not even an American. She's a Ukrainian. And she was killed by, technically, paperwork-wise, she was killed by an American. It's just a completely surreal story, and the timing is so fascinating. I'm not suggesting that it's fake or that it's a psyop or anything like that. But if this story had happened, a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, it wouldn't have hit in the same way. The fact that it's happening right now is just like a great cosmic wink. And I can't help but think about the tweet from Bukele a couple of days ago. He said, "Buckle up, buttercups." He said he also had to tweet a couple days before that where he said something about the acceleration. Like, you can't feel the acceleration, but it's happening. And obviously he's well aware of things that are happening behind the scenes. And I don't know if he was alluding to this. It turns out this story, this woman stabbed on the Charlotte light rail, it happened August 22nd. August 22nd. It happened almost 3 weeks ago. It wasn't just like a little bit before September and then it took like a few days to kick off. No, this happened almost 3 weeks ago. And now it's kicking off. So there were people who knew about it, but it didn't actually really reach public consciousness until a couple of Anons picked it up. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit as well. But I just got to say, I've been feeling it. I've been feeling the especially for the first few hours today when I was sitting down and trying to put the show together, and I had to get the lab put together before I did the other streams so that I could kind of get them as back to back as much as possible. And I was feeling the weight. It was weighing on me big time. It's just so dark. You want to know dark energy? This is dark energy. The dark energy is out there. The vengeful sun is not something that's coming. It is here. It is 100% here. And we're seeing just how difficult it is, how tantalizing it is. Because this like, I'm not going to be the fag who's like, oh, well, now you can't be angry about this, and but at the same time, like, guard your souls, man. Guard your souls, because this is the outlet. This is not the outlet. This is the inroad. This is the inroad for some dark, dark shit. And if you feel like you need to opt out of it for a little bit for the sake of your own soul, don't feel shame in that, man. None of the rest of this matters as much as protecting the sanctity and the integrity of your soul. Because those impulses are out there. And I'm not saying you have to ignore those impulses. I'm not saying that those impulses are unjust or that they're bad. No, they absolutely are 100% just. But you got to make sure that anger is truly a righteous anger. And even if it's righteous anger, you can't let it be all-consuming to you. You cannot be completely subsumed in righteous anger. It has to be tempered. But at the same time, righteous anger is absolutely a real thing, and it exists for a reason. And it has to be, I don't know if capitalized on is the word to say. It kind of sounds a little cynical. But, the dark side of this is never let a good tragedy go to waste. I would say the light side of that is don't let her death be in vain. there is an opportunity to get significant positive change out of this so that it's not simply a pointless tragedy. Sometimes you got to go through the dark shit for people to come online, to realize this isn't even what's significant about this is it was caught on video. But this happens regularly. These stories happen all the time. Everyone's posted about like the rape gangs in the UK. And a bunch of these stories have involved migrants brutally stabbing young girls to death. There's been numerous stories like that. They just weren't caught on video. You didn't get to analyze every last little detail of the footage. You didn't get to hear the reactions of people around him. You didn't get to hear the guy muttering to himself, I got that white girl, I got that white girl. You didn't see the images of her laying there with her blood covering the floor. This tragedy was not unique. This tragedy has been happening on a daily basis for decades. And all the other victims have just gone into obscurity. They've been forgotten. That's the tragedy. That this has happened so many times and they've just been forgotten. Nobody even knows their name. Their name never trended. No one logged on to the internet and saw the sorts of images that a human mind is not equipped to see and process and integrate and just roll with. But now it's happened. And we're getting a stark contrast between George Floyd, Daniel Penny, Austin Metcalf, Michael Brown, and Arena. We saw how the press, how every celebrity in the world, every Democrat politician, a whole bunch of Republican politicians fell all over themselves to condemn in every one of those other cases, they condemned the innocent person and deified the guilty party, deified the malevolent party. There was not that much difference between, as a matter of social class and cognitive capacity and propensity for violence, between George Floyd and DeCarlos, whatever his name is. The fucking name is DeCarlos. These men occupied the same social strata. They were the same type of person. And George Floyd had murals drawn for him. Politicians all around the country knelt for him. Politicians in other countries knelt for him. Derek Chauvin got a show trial and was sent to prison where he's been assaulted and stabbed himself. And the rest of us have just kind of gone on with our lives. You know, we get angry, we post about it, it bothers us, but we're just continuing with our lives. We haven't lived in a civilization for longer than we can remember. But we can have our civilization back. And it may mean you have to look at this tragedy. You have to see it. You have to see those images to truly comprehend how far we've fallen and what it's going to take to get our civilization back. It's going to take drastic action. And we're going to have to press for that action and also be patient. Because there are facts of reality that prevent the immediate restoration of civilization. It's going to be a society-wide effort to rebuild our civilization. And you can't rebuild civilizations in months or years. You rebuild civilizations in decades and centuries. Think about the Spanish and how long they went through this process. 700 years. Do you have the stomach for that? Do you have the character to engage in a project that could take 700 years to come to fruition? I don't personally think this one will take 700 years, but it might. The process of destroying our civilization has taken decades. And destroying things is so much faster than building them. Look at it like building a house versus detonating a house. How long did it take to build the towers? The Twin Towers. How long did it take to build them, and how long did it take for them to come down? And a tower is so much easier to build than a civilization. So when you feel that spirit, you feel that rage welling up in you, you have to recognize you're going to have to sit with it for a long, long time. You're not going to get immediate gratification for it. And you have to be okay with that. That doesn't mean anybody gets let off the hook. No, not at all. No, this is the opportunity to put a whole bunch of people on a whole bunch of hooks. And those sorts of opportunities, ironically, tragically, those opportunities don't present themselves without a tragedy like this. And if it doesn't happen with this one, there will be more. And frankly, there will be more. Even if it does happen with this one, even if heads are on pikes, there will be more tragedies like this. What defines a civilization is not the absence of tragedy, it's the response to the tragedy. What we're beginning to see now is how a civilization responds to this sort of tragedy. All the ne'er-do-wells are being dragged along in this swell that's picking up. It has to be pushed out to the normies. The normies must be awakened from their slumber. Not because we need to turn everyone into a political activist, but because the normies need to know what time it is. The normies need to know that it's time for them to stand down. And let what's happening happen. The normies' role is to fall in line. Because here's the other thing. We were talking about this in the Discord earlier. There's lots of talk about order, establishing order. We need to have order. This is like one of the major cases that you hear from the doom-pilling faggot types. Oh, the Trump administration isn't solving every single one of these problems comprehensively with this one swift stroke, magically reversing everything and solving it all immediately. Oh, they're just pushing it off, and the Democrats are going to get elected, and they're just going to undo it all, and it's all going to go away, and traitorous Republicans, and You know what's more important than order? Power. Before you can establish order, you must consolidate power. It's no good making all these changes, establishing some sort of new order, to just have it completely upended in 2 to 4 years. So the absolute top priority for the administration that must color every single thing they do is ensure that they remain in power beyond the midterms, beyond the next election, beyond the next midterms, beyond the next election. They must consolidate power. Then they can concern themselves with establishing order. No more of this ping-ponging back between parties. No. The Democrats don't get another chance. They don't get another opportunity in power. We're not going to do this gay shit anymore. The unitary executive is coming back. And the things that can be changed by fiat are going to be changed by fiat. The things that require the Supreme Court are going to be pushed through the Supreme Court in such a way that the Supreme Court justices, for the sake of their own self-preservation, have no choice but to align themselves with the executive while maintaining the illusion of being independent. The things that have to go through Congress need to go through Congress in the right order at the right time. Because the last thing you want to do is push the wrong thing through Congress when you still have a fake majority. They've gotten an insane number of things through a fake majority Congress full of traitors. Political time doesn't move like social media time. What we've watched since January is the most comprehensive political blitzkrieg that has happened in our lifetimes, in our grandparents' lifetimes. We're watching the consolidation of power. And the fact that the administration recognizes that just reinforces my observation. To me, it reinforces my observation that the roles have been reversed. The anons, the posters, the peanut gallery on the internet, of which I am a dyed-in-the-wool member, is behind the curve now. The actual sophisticated operators are in power, operating. They're ahead of the curve. They know what they're doing. They know that first and foremost, before they can get to work actually comprehensively, sustainably addressing the most significant issues, they need to ensure that there's no possible margin for the opposition party to regain power anytime soon. Once they've done that, then they can deal with the issue of traitors within their own party. There's an order to this before you can establish order. First, you deal with the traitors outside the party. Then you deal with the traitors inside the party. And once they've aligned the power structure, then we can start talking about the massive, comprehensive changes that need to be made. And in spite of all that, they've still made massive changes. The culture of mass deportations that they've created is not going away anytime soon. That's taking root. The fatigue that they're, what would the word be? They're cultivating it. They're allowing it to be out there. You don't put that toothpaste back in the tube. And they're feeding it properly in the way that they can. I mean, frickin' Fox News is 1350 posting. There's no way I expected that to happen in 2025. If you expect the president to come out and immediately make this about all the violent niggers running around and we need to get all the niggers out of the country, you've lost your mind. Because having the president talk that way, regardless of what he actually thinks or believes, having him talk that way flies directly in the face of the top line priority, which is maintain power beyond this term. Just because you've swam in these waters for months or years doesn't mean the rest of the population has. And yeah, democracy is fake and gay, but we still have to deal with the masses. The masses have to come on board in their own time. And the administration is facilitating that. Slutty Milk says, it just hit me. We got Gigajew memes made in the King Pill Discord being posted by big Twitter accounts that JD Vance follows. The VP is literally seeing our memes. Yes. Yes. They get it. They understand. We are in a dialogue with them. They know exactly how we feel about these things. They have to operate on the political timeline. The political timeline is not the same as the narrative timeline. It's not the same as the social media timeline. Our responsibility is to drive the narrative. And we're engaged in this little dance with them. Okay, let's get this party started here. I mean, it's probably not necessarily appropriate to call it a party, but first half of it is going to be a little rough, a little dark, and then we got some really good stuff in the back half. But first of all, of course, we have to start with our token bit of slop. Shout out to Frank Butcher, the first citizen, whatever you may know him by, for dropping this one in the Discord this morning. A rare TikTok clip. I am loath to open this cursed platform, but in this case, it's a good one. I had a dream where I married my crush, quote unquote. Someone says, I had a dream I married my crush. My average dream.
This is MAGA country.
Bravo 6, going dark.
Defeating the radical left, the Marxists, the agitators, the anarchists. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will liberate America from these villains once and for all.
As my first order of business, I hereby declare martial law.
You have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families.
Putin's a killer. A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Well, you think our country's so innocent?
Death penalty. Bring it forth.
The only good communist is a dead communist.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans representing extremism.
Americanism, not globalism.
That threatens the very foundations.
Will be our credo.
I'm going to bomb the shit out of them.
Hail Trump, hail our people, hail victory.
That one really fit the mood for today. That was very appropriate. That's what I was feeling this morning. Interesting thought here from Straight Buster. He said, I haven't seen the Charlotte thing break containment on the Instagram yet, but when it does. Okay, so marching orders for you boys. Those of you who are Instagram frequenters, do us a favor. Keep us updated. I virtually never open the app. Pretty much the only time is when the wife jack sends me wife jack content. Virtually never open Instagram. But when it starts breaking containment, let us know. Keep tabs on that. That's like the getting down into the depths of norminess that I can't get into. Sam Jeremy says it's banging on my side of IG big time. CG Constantine said it already broke it, but Ian Rhodes says it's not on Insta. So my wife says it's definitely on IG. Okay, so but the mere fact that some people are saying it's not means that it hasn't reached full saturation. When it does reach full saturation, that's when we're gonna get a whole new rush of things. So here is the press secretary. I got several comments here from members of the administration, including the Don himself. And I just want to play these and think, if you can, take yourself back to previous administrations, even the last Trump administration, and note the mere fact that they're even covering this and talking about this in the first place is a development. And then note the rhetoric, the way they're talking about it, and the subtext that sometimes they can't say, but you've got to be able to temper the autism sufficiently to be able to read the subtext behind their words. They are communicating. They're doing the hello, mind lock here. Can you hear the unsaid thing? We hear you. We're speaking to you. Recognize the unsaid thing. The time will come when we can say these things. We're moving that direction. We've made tremendous progress in that direction. But for now, listen. Don't get stuck on the very words themselves, but hear the implications behind them. Oop. Got to share my screen. I haven't done that one in a long time.
Today, I would like to address the tragedy that has not received nearly enough media attention, the brutal murder of Irina Zarutska. Here are the facts that many outlets have shamefully and intentionally failed to report until President Trump drew attention to it. On August 22nd, Irina Zarutska was stabbed to death on the rail system in Charlotte, North Carolina, by a savage career criminal. This is a public transportation system that many in the area use every single day to go to school and work. Irina was on the train that night traveling home from her job at a pizzeria, still in uniform from her shift. This beautiful, innocent 23-year-old young woman was a Ukrainian refugee who had recently fled her country for a chance at a safer life and a promising new beginning here in the United States of America. But tragically, a public transportation system in a major American city was more dangerous than the active war zone that she left. The president and the entire White House are praying for her family and friends during this unimaginably difficult time. But while we extend our thoughts and prayers, we must also seek justice for this crime and call attention to this heinous incident. Surveillance video of the killing was finally released to the public this past Friday. It shows the alleged killer, DeCarlos Brown Jr., pull out a knife, get up from his seat behind Irina, and prepare to thrust a blade into her neck before the released footage gets cut. This is pure evil on full display. The most enraging and unacceptable part of this...
Now, this statement that she gave was before today they released the full footage. I'm not going to play it. I'm drawing the line there. You can go find it if you want to see it. I'm not saying you shouldn't see it. I'm saying I'm not going to play it. I mean, in part, maybe because I don't even know if it's gonna, I don't know what Kicks terms or whatever are. There's people who are actively trying to get it taken down off of X, the fucking scum. These people are sick! But I'm not gonna play it. It's as bad as you think it is. But they've now released it publicly. It's out there. The full footage is out there. Millions of people have already seen it and are going to see it. They're not putting this toothpaste back in the tube.
The story is that her death was entirely preventable. DeCarlos Brown never should have been on that train that night. In fact, he should have been behind bars. DeCarlos Brown has been charged with crimes no fewer than 14 times, dating back to 2011, including for armed robbery, felony larceny, breaking and entering, and shoplifting. Brown had previously served 5 years in prison for a robbery with a deadly weapon charge, and he had also forfeited bonds 3 different times, twice in 2014 and once in 2023. Despite all of this past documented criminal history, when Brown was arrested yet again in January of this past year, a Democrat judge, who I will add was a strong supporter of former Vice President Kamala Harris, released this insane criminal once again without requiring him to pay any bail. He simply had to sign a written promise to return for his court hearing. Think about how crazy it is to ask a career criminal, someone who by definition repeatedly breaks the law, to just sign a written promise and come back again another day. This is madness. This monster should have been locked up, and Arena should still be alive. But Democrat politicians, liberal judges, and weak prosecutors would rather virtue signal than lock up criminals and protect their communities. And perhaps most shamefully of all, the majority of the media, many outlets in this room, decided that her murder was not worth reporting on originally because it does not fit a preferred narrative. Many of the journalists in this room spilled plenty of ink trying to smear Daniel Penny for defending a subway car from a deranged lunatic in New York City, but none of those same reporters lift a finger to write stories about an actual murderer. Here's the truth that every American must know. Too many innocent people across the country continue to pay the price of the failed experiment known as cashless bail that has been championed by the Democrat Party for years. All the way back in 2020, North Carolina's then Democrat Governor Roy Cooper established a so-called task force for racial equity and criminal justice. Sounds nice, but it's not. That task force was co-authored by then Attorney General and current Democrat Governor Josh Stein. It recommended, quote, reimagining public safety to, quote, promote diversion and other alternatives to arrest. It also advised to de-emphasize some felony crimes, prioritize, quote, restorative justice, and eliminate cash bail. Democrats in North Carolina and nationwide are consumed with pushing a woke, soft-on-crime agenda, no matter how many innocent Americans suffer as a result. Instead of aggressively prosecuting and locking up violent criminals, the Democrat-backed cashless bail approach lets these criminals roam free in our country to offend again and again. These reckless policies have turned too many of American cities into hunting grounds for career criminals who mock our justice system, drain law enforcement resources, and wreak havoc on law-abiding citizens. Enough is enough, and that is why President Trump is doing everything in his power by taking action to undo these absurd policies. The president recently signed a powerful executive order directing the AG to submit a list of states and local jurisdictions with cashless bail policies, so that the Trump administration may identify federal funds that are being provided to these states and can potentially be suspended or terminated. President Trump firmly believes that to maintain order in public safety, we must incarcerate individuals whose pending criminal charges or criminal history
It is time to establish task forces.
Indeed. Indeed. That's absolutely coming. That's absolutely coming.
Demonstrate a clear, ongoing risk to civil society. This is a common sense and sensible approach that the vast majority of Americans agree with, and it's time for the Democrat Party to get on board with what is right. When these criminals are caught, they must be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law and be sent to prison, where they can no longer terrorize our streets. This is the mandate the American people delivered to President Trump, and it's a mandate he intends to fulfill.
Here's Stephen Miller. You guys, we played an excerpt of this last night, but here's the full statement.
The Democrat Party, Sean, is terrorizing the American people. Just think about what is happening in our major cities, the bloodbaths every single weekend. One victim after another, one shooting after another, one murder after another. When you have Democrat politicians like Pritzker and Newsom that are freeing illegal alien pedophiles, illegal alien child abductors, illegal alien murderers back into our streets to kidnap people, to beat them senseless, to stab them and shoot them to death. This is terrorism being waged against the American people. And then you look at that video that chills our very souls out of Charlotte, that beautiful young woman stabbed to death, murdered savagely on a subway, just trying to get home from work, fleeing war, only to run into a Democrat war zone here in our country. That monster, 14 prior arrests in and out, in and out.
The N-word.
The Democrat policies of catch and release for barbarians and savages is truly an act of terror, Sean, against the American people. It cannot be explained unless you deeply, fundamentally hate America.
Yes. This is exactly it right here. The Democrat Party and its constituents fundamentally hate America. It is a party of terrorism. They are domestic terrorists. They spent years trying to say that white men are domestic terrorists. Yet another example of their own projection. The Democrat Party is a party of domestic terrorism. Anarcho-tyranny. Weaponizing the underclass against the ordinary American. Out of simple glee over seeing good and beautiful things destroyed. That is the fundamental principle of the Democrat Party. It must be banned. I'm not under the illusion that this is going to happen ASAP. No, it's going to take time. I'm talking like they're going to have to be removed as a political force before they can be removed as a social force. But that must be the end of this, the end point. The point we're directed toward. And I'm not under the illusion that that means, oh, all the bad guys are going to be gone and we're going to live in utopia. No, but this is a necessary step. Everything that the Democrat Party stood for, and everything that democracy stands for. If the Democrat Party becomes affiliated with terrorism, democracy becomes affiliated with terrorism. This is the sort of linguistic narrative work that we could be establishing over the next few years. This was the president yesterday. I can't remember if I played this yesterday or not, but I'll play it here.
I've made clear Attorney General Pam Bondi is working really hard, that we must get answers about the causes of these repeated attacks, and we're working very, very hard on that. The Trump administration will have no tolerance for terrorism or political violence, and that includes hate crimes against Christians, Jews, or anybody else. We're not going to allow it. And there was also a horrible killing recently in Charlotte, where I talked about, and so many others, and we're going to get to the end of it. And, you know, when you have horrible killings, you have to take horrible actions. And the actions that we take are nothing. This cashless bail started a wave in our country where a killer kills somebody and is out on the street by the afternoon. In many cases, going out and killing again. Cashless bail, and I've made...
When you have horrible killings, you have to take horrible actions. This is straight from the president. And then here we have the president reacting to this immediately. Within a couple days of the story breaking, the president is reacting to it.
For far too long, Americans have been forced to put up with Democrat-run cities that set loose savage, bloodthirsty criminals to prey on innocent people. Really very, very innocent people. In every place, they control radical left judges, politicians, and activists, and they've adopted a policy of catch and release for thugs and killers. In Charlotte, North Carolina, we saw the results of these policies when a 23-year-old woman who came here from Ukraine met her bloody end on a public train. And here's a picture of it. This is the picture of it. And this is a picture of the woman, a beautiful young girl that
he's showing the pictures.
Never had problems in life.
Embed that into your skull. This is what I'm talking about, the subtext. He's showing the pictures. This is what Democrat-sponsored crime looks like. Are you getting the subtext? Are you so autistic that you need everything spoken out loud? Or can you recognize the subtext here?
With a magnificent future in this country. And now she's dead. She was slaughtered by a deranged monster who was roaming free after 14 prior arrests. We cannot allow a depraved criminal element of violent repeat offenders to continue spreading destruction and death throughout our country. We have to respond with force and strength. We have to be vicious just like they are.
We have to be vicious just like they are. When they do horrible things, we need to do horrible things to them. We have to be vicious just like they are.
It's the only thing they understand. 24 of the top 25 most dangerous cities in America are run by Democrat mayors. 50 people were murdered in Chicago in recent weeks, with hundreds being shot. And it's time to stop this madness. The people of our country need to insist on protection, safety, law, and order. We have proven that it can be done because we did it right here in D.C., in District of Columbia. The capital of America was a bloodthirsty, horrible, dangerous place, one of the worst. And now it's a crime-free city, and we're going to keep it that way. It can be done. It can happen fast. All we want is, please, Mr. President, we need help. Chicago needs help. Other cities need help. We'll do what has to be done because we're going to make America safe again, and that includes our big cities. We're going to make those cities safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are going to make our cities safe. I see you guys in the chat talking about some of the other fucking retards. This is the destruction of Israel. I do not give a flying fuck about Israel when our people are being slaughtered in the streets of our country. Isn't this what we wanted? Didn't we want a president who was concerned about what's happening domestically to our citizens in our country? The violent crime that average Americans are being subjected to all the time. If you're bitching about Israel right now, you should be fucking deported. You're not an American. You are opting out. Absolutely. Revoke the citizenship of anybody who's bitching about Israel right now. This isn't a distraction from Israel. Israel is a distraction from this. You want to see Israel first? Israel first is when we're getting the best response we've ever gotten from a Republican administration to an innocent white girl getting her neck slashed by a black dude on a train here in one of our cities, and all these fucking faggots can talk about is Israel. Send them there. Let them live there if they care about it so fucking much. June 5, 2013. From Donald Trump. Sadly, the overwhelming amount of violent crime in our major cities is committed by blacks and Hispanics. A tough subject. Must be discussed. You think he doesn't know? Are you that retarded? You think he doesn't know what the problem is? Or are you just so fucking autistic that you need him to yell nigger from the Oval Office? Just to satisfy your petty little autism. They know what the problem is. They're solving it. As long as they don't have to be dragged away and dedicate attention to fucking Jeffrey Epstein. I'm so fed up with these mental midgets. Like, it's one thing to be stupid, okay? Like, if you don't understand how everything works, it's okay, you're stupid. Sit down and learn. But you don't get to be stupid and also have really strong opinions about this stuff and get an attitude about it. That's when you can fuck right off. Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation, which is interesting because this happened on public transportation. He says, I stand firm with President Trump's message of zero tolerance for criminality, especially on our federal DOT-funded public transportation. Interesting. So this violent crime occurred on federal DOT-funded public transportation. Apparently that means that this is federal jurisdiction. If mayors can't keep their trains and buses safe, they don't deserve the taxpayers' money. US DOT will be investigating Charlotte over its failure to protect Irina Zarutska. And we will also be looking at other crime-ridden cities across the country. I was moved by a Charlotte resident who said today, "I don't feel safe on public transportation, but I have to work." No American should be put in that position. And the Trump administration will do everything in its power to change that. They're hitting them from every angle. If you can't keep your citizens safe on public transportation, the Secretary of Transportation is going to be auditing you and pulling federal funds from you. The federal funds you use to money launder and to rig elections, by the way. We'll get to that in just a minute. He also says this: liberals want you to ride public transportation. They hate cars, they hate airplanes. So wouldn't it make sense to then make it safe? But they disregard the working men and women, and instead they fight for the crime and homelessness that reside on these trains. POTUS has it right. When you put cops on the streets and subways, you protect the American people, and that's what US DOT and the Trump administration are fighting hard to do.
Here's what's interesting. Law enforcement actually works. We're 4 weeks into President Trump in Washington, D.C., and the stats as of last week is robberies are down 52%, carjackings are down by 38%, violent crimes down by 40%. Those numbers have improved. But when you put cops on the street, when you put cops in the subway, when you put cops everywhere in a community, guess what? You protect your people. And what frustrates me is liberals want you to ride public transportation. They hate cars. They hate airplanes. They want us all to ride public transportation. Wouldn't it make sense that they'd want to make it beautiful, clean, and really safe? But they do the exact opposite. They say, we're going to disregard the voting public, the hardworking men and women who put their boots on every day and go to work, and we're instead going to stand up and fight for the homelessness and the criminal element that reside on these trains. Here's what's interesting.
All right, sorry, I forgot. I put the wrong link in here for the tip. I put the stream link instead. Let me fix that real quick. Thank you for pointing that out. I type both of these every day, and I knew one of these days I was gonna get them backwards. I wonder if I put the tips link out on Twitter. All right, there it is. Thank you for alerting me to that. This is the sort of this is what dealing with the problem looks like. It's not just having some member of the administration, having the president or the vice president go start dropping N-bombs on the timeline. That doesn't fix the situation. That might make you feel good. That might give you a little dopamine rush. That doesn't fix the situation. What fixes the situation is politically strangling the people who are creating the situation. And the people who are creating the situation are not the subhuman filth who are actually committing the crimes. That's a problem that's very easily solved. It's the people who are preventing that problem from being solved. It is the Democrat Party. It is the NGOs. It's the media. It's the judges. It's the local officials, the mayors, the corrupt police departments. That is the problem. So this isn't simply just like partisan politicking. No, they've correctly identified the actual source of the problem. He just said it. It's easy to solve this problem. You just need the agents of the Democrat Party to get the fuck out of the way. And if they're not going to get out of the way, they're going to be crushed. This is a boa constrictor coming at them from every side, containing them, narrowing them down, encircling them, and crushing them. Not just doing some shock and awe to pander to the retards who think the whole world has to revolve around them. Who think that their loyalty is something that has to be earned. Fuck you and your loyalty. You belong in a camp. Harmeet Dillon, quote tweets Matt Walsh and says, "This is a civil rights issue. Do you see what's happening?" You know what's even better than just abolishing the Civil Rights Act? You know what's even better than that? Turning the Civil Rights Act into the death warrant for the Democrat Party. Now, what happens if you take the Civil Rights Act and you make white people a protected class? What if you start prosecuting non-whites for racial crimes against whites under the Civil Rights Act? Now suddenly, if the Civil Rights Act applies to everyone, it doesn't apply to anyone. You've just abolished it effectively. And it's so much easier to do that than to try to go through the whole arcane, bureaucratic, legal process of writing something on a piece of paper that says, Civil Rights Act no more, bye-bye. No, you just take their bat and start beating them with it. Matt Walsh says, this image will define the new civil rights movement. We have a right to use public accommodations without being butchered in our seats. We have a right to safe communities where violent animals are rounded up and caged. This is not just a local crime. It's a civil rights issue. And this is the message that the Associate Attorney General signal boosted from her personal account. She is personally weighing in on this and saying, this is a civil rights issue. Black people being released to terrorize white people on the subway by Democrats is a civil rights issue. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General. Irina Zarutska was a young woman living the American dream. Her horrific murder is a direct result of failed soft-on-crime policies that put criminals before innocent people. I have directed my attorneys to federally prosecute DeCarlos Brown Jr., a repeat violent offender with a history of violent crime, for murder.
The white man is back, baby! The white man is back!
Pinned link isn't 2 tips, LOL. Just giving you a heads up.
Thank you, Thugglican. Now you see how long it takes these to come through. Thank you, man. We're not going to leave this to the local jurisdiction to handle this problem. No, this is going to be dealt with at the federal level. We will seek the maximum penalty for this unforgivable crime, and he will never again see the light of day as a free man. Now, what's the maximum penalty, you might ask? Well, here are the federal charges. Officially, United States of America v. DeCarlos DeJuan Brown Jr. I, the complainant in this case, state that the following is true to the best of my knowledge and belief. On or about the dates of August 22, 2025, in the county of Mecklenburg, in the Western District of North Carolina, the defendant violated 18 U.S.C. 1992, A7 and B1, terrorist attack or other violence against a mass transportation system. So they have found a way to exercise federal jurisdiction over this. Well, let's go find out what 18 U.S.C. 1992 A7 and B1 are. I went and pulled it up for you guys. Let me zoom in on this just a little bit. This is for terrorist attacks and other violence against railroad carriers and against mass transportation systems on land, on water, or through air. A7 commits an act, so this is whoever in a circumstance described in subsection C, knowingly and without lawful authority or permission, commits an act including the use of a dangerous weapon with the intent to cause death or serious bodily injury to any person who is on property described in subparagraph A or B of paragraph 4. So, paragraph 4, this is right here, subsection A and B of paragraph 4, which is tunnel, bridge, viaduct, trestle, track, electromagnetic guideway, signal station, depot, warehouse, terminal, or any other way, structure, or property, or appurtenance used in the operation of or in support of the operation of a railroad carrier, and with intent to or knowing or having reason to know such activity would likely derail, disable, or wreck railroad on-track equipment, or garage, terminal, structure, track, electromagnetic guideway, supplier, facility used in the operation of or in support of the operation of a mass transportation vehicle. So it's those sorts of property, the property that's described in those subparagraphs. So A7 and B1. Whoever commits an offense under subsection A of the section in a circumstance in which the railroad on-track equipment or mass transportation vehicle was carrying a passenger or employee at the time of the offense. So this is for the aggravated offense. And here's what it says explicitly in the statute. Anybody who commits A7 plus B1 shall be fined under this title or imprisoned for any term of years or life or both, and if the offense resulted in the death of any person, the person may be sentenced to death. So they are going for the death penalty. Here's your proof right here. She said, "We will seek the maximum penalty for this unforgivable crime." The maximum penalty under the statute that they're charging him under is death penalty. So we'll have to follow this case because obviously there's going to be a tremendous amount of effort put into trying to get him off, which is going to create a great opportunity to go follow the money. Who is funding this effort to get this heinous criminal not executed? Let's follow that money and see who that runs up to. Andy Ogles, representative from Tennessee's 5th Congressional District, sitting member of Congress, posted a Twitter poll. Would publicly hanging murderers lower overall crime? Sitting members of Congress are entering into the zeitgeist the possibility of public hangings. That's where we're at. Don't give me none of this nothing ever happens bullshit. Sitting members of Congress are teasing the idea of reintroducing public hangings. Pressure, 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 pressure. This must happen. Yes, Augustine, don't immediately kill him. Find out who funds his defense. That's what I'm saying. If you just kill him right away, you don't find out who's going to fund his defense. This is what I like. Just think about it. Just a little bit. I beg of you. Do you want to win battles or do you want to win the war? Yeah, Jukebox Wizard, about to hit the suddenly curve on the gradually and suddenly chart. That's exactly what's happening. Department of Justice has smacked Carlos Dewan Brown Jr. with a federal charge after the horrific slaying of Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska. FBI Director Kash Patel and AG Pam Bondi say they are seeking the maximum penalty. Patel said the brutal attack on Irina Zarutska on the Charlotte Light Rail was a disgraceful act that should never happen in America. The FBI jumped to assist in this investigation immediately to ensure justice is served, and the perpetrator is never released from jail to kill again. I want to thank Attorney General Bondi for her pursuit of today's federal charges, which are the first step toward delivering justice for Irina and her family. The first step... Oh, there's more steps? As well as the millions of Americans who deserve to live in our great American cities free from being targeted by violent criminals. I have directed my attorneys to federally prosecute him, and I read that from Pam Bondi already. Matt Walsh. Trump addressed the nation about the crime. His DOJ is now filing federal charges. As a conservative, if you can't be appreciative of this kind of leadership, unthinkable from any Republican admin in our lifetime, then I don't know what to tell you. It's hard for me to believe that you're a sincere person or an honest broker. Congressman Tim Moore, representing North Carolina's 14th Congressional District and the longest-serving Speaker of the North Carolina House, member of the Financial Committee and the House Budget Committee. Today I led a letter calling for the removal of Magistrate Judge Teresa Stokes, who released a 14-time offender who went on to murder Irina Zarutska in Charlotte. This tragedy was preventable. There must be accountability. North Carolinians deserve better. This is what he said. Dear Chief Judge Wiggins, we are writing to urge that you initiate proceedings under North Carolina General Statute 7A 173A for the removal of Magistrate Teresa Stokes from office. That statute provides for the removal of the magistrate for willful and persistent failure to perform the duties of the office or conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice that brings the judicial office into disrepute. Magistrate Stokes' actions in the case of DeCarlos Brown Jr. clearly meet both of these grounds for removal. In January of 2025, Magistrate Stokes authorized the release of Brown based solely on his written promise to appear for a future court date. This decision was made despite Brown's extensive criminal history, which included at least 14 prior arrests for serious offenses such as possession of a firearm by a felon, robbery with a dangerous weapon, and physical assault of his sister. In 2014, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison for robbery with a dangerous firearm. The January charge, a Class 1 misdemeanor, arose after Brown became combative with police officers. Yet despite this history of violent and unstable behavior, Magistrate Stokes released them without requiring bond or imposing any meaningful conditions to safeguard the public. This reckless decision had devastating consequences. He goes on to describe what happened. By releasing a repeat violent offender on nothing more than his written promise to appear, Magistrate Stokes displayed a willful failure to perform the duties of her office and engaged in conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice as set forth in the code. Her decision has undermined public confidence in the judicial system and exposed the community to wholly preventable harm. For these reasons, we urge you to commence formal removal proceedings against Magistrate Teresa Stokes. We further request that the court conduct a thorough review of her prior bond determinations to assess the full extent of misconduct. North Carolinians deserve to know that those entrusted with judicial authority exercise it with diligence, responsibility, and regard for the safety of the community. And obviously, we talked yesterday about the fact that she was the head of or running some kind of like a mental health treatment facilities where she was releasing people and assigning them to herself. This investigation must happen. And if you're mad that he isn't calling for her to be arrested in this, he said right here, we request that the court conduct a thorough review of her prior bond determinations to assess the full extent of misconduct, which means there must be an investigation. This is the process that has to happen. I know everybody wants to circumvent the process and go straight to the fun part, but the process has to happen. If you want to establish order, the process must happen. The worst thing possible would be to blow your load too soon and have someone get off on a technicality. You must dot every I and cross every T thoroughly, relentlessly, exactly as the administration has been doing with the Supreme Court, with all of these court cases. Yeah, Junpa, legitimacy must be upheld. Because for you personally, who's been deep in this world for a long time, you may see this as fully legitimate, to just go string her up to a tree right now. Frankly, I wouldn't really disagree with that. But the vast majority of the population is not going to, they're going to see that as much worse than letting a corrupt judge get off. So every I must be dotted, every T must be crossed, and we must have the discipline and the character to do this patiently. Patiently, thoroughly, comprehensively. For Megan Basham, another factor in the death of Irina Zarutska on Charlotte's light rail, the left-wing MacArthur Foundation giving Mecklenburg County a $3.3 million grant to reduce the jail population, specifically as part of racial equity aims. Here, these are the big dogs. If a judge gets off because you get one of these, that's when real shit starts changing. Like Soros's Open Society, the MacArthur Foundation incentivizes local municipalities to make residents less safe by leaving threats like DeCarlos Brown on the streets. In 2020, Mecklenburg County was awarded its second grant in the amount of $1 million from the MacArthur Foundation as part of the Safety and Justice Challenge to continue supporting the county's efforts to develop and implement strategies capable of positively impacting the main drivers of the local jail population. In 2022, the county was awarded an additional $350,000 to ensure recent reforms were sustainable. So many euphemisms. This brings the total investment in Mecklenburg County by the MacArthur Foundation to $3.3 million. To continue safely reducing the jail population, the county plans to implement strategies aimed at addressing system inefficiencies, enhancing existing services, providing non-jail alternatives for defendants, and increasing community engagement in local justice system reform. This will include enhancing services provided to defendants pre-trial, implementing more meaningful first appearance hearings, and improving case processing, and partnering with residents to identify and implement community-led programs and policy interventions. This is anarcho-tyranny. This is what anarcho-tyranny looks like. This is how it works. Between 2014 and 2017, Mecklenburg County reduced its jail population by 11%. While these numbers are worthy of celebrating, Mecklenburg County's Department of Criminal Justice Services continues to search for ways to reduce the use of incarceration for defendants. Too often, a jail stay depends on an ability to pay. Although we've increased the use of non-financial conditions of release, jail stays still too often are associated with financial capabilities. For example, an analysis of data from January 2020 to December 2022 indicated pretrial release and length of stay are main drivers of the jail population. The average pretrial jail population alone was 68% of the total average daily population. Despite making up approximately 47% of the local population, African Americans and Hispanics make up 82% of the jail population. So the stated goal of this money that they were investing in the local government was to ensure that Black and Hispanic criminals were less likely to go to jail, were less likely to be taken off the streets, were more likely to commit crimes again. The MacArthur Foundation was paying off local officials to ensure that violent criminals would be on the streets so they could do things like stab Ukrainian refugee women in the neck. For Peachy Keenan, the Palfrey family descends from the Roosevelts, has 200 years of history at Harvard, and is in charge of one of the largest charities in the country, $8 billion plus. Every dollar of which is dedicated to far left-wing racial justice, anti-American causes, and supporting the absolute worst artists and writers with $800K no-strings-attached gifts. Who is the Palfrey family? Well, the John D. and Carolyn T. MacArthur Foundation. The president, John Palfrey. John Gorham Palfrey VII. Is an American educator, scholar, and law professor. His areas of focus include emerging media, internet freedom, online transparency and accountability, and child safety. Oh yeah, this is the guy I want involved in child safety. In 2019, he was named the president of the MacArthur Foundation effective September 1, 2019. He was the 15th head of school at Phillips Academy in Andover, Massachusetts, and was the executive director of Harvard's Berkman Center for Internet and Society from 2002 to 2008. This is the guy who is the president of the foundation that is paying local officials to release violent criminals from prison. Interesting background. His grandfather was an American academic, administrator, and government official. He was professor at law at Columbia and served as dean of Columbia College from 1958 to 1962. He also served on the United States Atomic Energy Commission for 5 years. He married Belle Wyatt Clochette Roosevelt, who was the granddaughter of Theodore Roosevelt and daughter of Kermit Roosevelt. Their wedding was attended by Franklin and Eleanor Roosevelt. Who was his great-grandfather? John G. Palfrey was an American clergyman and historian who served as a U.S. representative from Massachusetts, a Unitarian minister. He played a leading role in the early history of Harvard Divinity School, and he later became involved in politics as a state representative and U.S. congressman. Now, I read this bio, and I said to myself, this guy was very obviously an anti-slavery Whig. And what do you know? You scroll down a little bit. Palfrey was elected as a Whig to the 13th Congress. He was a conscience Whig who opposed slavery, having freed 16 slaves inherited from his father, who, like his two brothers, was a successful Louisiana plantation owner. In Washington, he was a member of a small group of anti-slavery congressmen, including Joshua Giddings, who met regularly. His anti-slavery views alienated him from more conservative members of his district, such as the Cotton Whigs. And in 1848, he was unsuccessful in his campaign for re-election on the Free Soil ticket. He was also the Free Soil candidate for governor of Massachusetts. In addition to opposing slavery, he advocated for the rights of free blacks traveling in the South and attempted unsuccessfully to remove provisions that limited suffrage to whites in Oregon's territorial constitution. As the anti-slavery movement grew in Massachusetts, the Republican Party emerged. Palfrey's political fortunes improved again. After Abraham Lincoln's election in 1861, Senator Charles Sumner secured him appointment as postmaster of Boston, a post he held from 1861 to 1867. The Free Soil Party was the Free Democratic Party of the Free Democracy. It was a political party in the United States from 1848 to 1854 when it merged into the Republican Party. It was focused on opposing the expansion of slavery into the western territories of the United States. And here you see, in these three men across, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 generations, you see the subversion of the United States. This right here, this is the regime class in a person, and always has been. Charlotte, North Carolina councilwoman Tijuana Brown, who was indicted on federal charges for stealing $124,000 in COVID funds, is up for election today. She allegedly stole funds to throw herself a $15,000 birthday party with a throne and horse-drawn carriage. There was a federal indictment against her for allegedly misappropriating $124,000 in COVID-19 relief funds, including $15,000 for a lavish birthday party with a throne and horse-drawn carriage, a scheme detailed in a May 2025 indictment by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of North Carolina. Her case is notable given her prior prison time for fraud and her election in 2023 despite this history, raising questions about voter awareness and accountability, especially as she faces re-election on the same day as the Post. Data from the U.S. Small Business Administration shows over $200 billion in COVID-19 relief loans were issued, yada, yada, yada. Survivor of giving birth to my daughter in federal prison. History maker. The first formerly incarcerated person to win city council in Charlotte, North Carolina. She has her Cash App on her social media posts. This is a councilwoman in Charlotte. You wonder why people like DeCarlos Brown Jr. were walking free. It's because a literal convicted felon was installed on the local city council. Charlotte City Manager Marcus Jones is the highest paid city manager in the nation. He has made more than the President of the United States since 2022 and is a member of the Firsts Club in Charlotte. His annual salary is $480,229, with additional compensation including deferred compensation, car allowance, and expense allowance. City Manager Marcus D. Jones. He's responsible for hiring our next CMPD chief, and the transit system administrator or whatever reports to him. Before they opened up the floor for public discussion after Arena's brutal murder, Charlotte City Council made everyone sit and wait while they had cake. They had cake. Cake time is over. Charlotte City Council is now starting its discussion of the fatal stabbing. They had to take a break for cake first. and the city manager, the guy I just showed you, Marcus D. Jones, left the meeting before the conversation about the stabbing. Shout out to some bitch I know on Twitter. She says, everything I learn about Charlotte makes my blood boil. The Charlotte City Council approved a 14% raise for him. This woman, the city council she sits on, approved a 14% raise for this guy so he could show up for the cake and then leave before hearing about how one of his people brutally stabbed a woman in the neck. The birthday cake was for City Councilwoman Dimple Ajmera. Dimple Ajmera, who previously expressed concerns were that violence might mean that Charlotte residents won't vote in favor of their upcoming 1% sales tax increase referendum. Quote, I think recently, like a lot of people's eyes been open to things happening. So I think it's just getting more perception based on the acts that are happening in the areas that are happening. That was actually another person, Grimaldi. And Ajmera said, safety is non-negotiable. If riders do not feel safe, our entire transit system and our city's future are at risk, especially when are talking about $25 billion that is going to be on our referendum this November. We must address this proactively. Some bitch I know said I have an actual tactical nuke of a report on Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles coming. Sleep tight, girl, you're gonna need the rest. Found this excellent piece of journalism from 2021 about Vi Lyles' warped notion of what is and isn't political bribery, and then I followed the pig trail. This is an article, The Casual Corruption of Mayor Vi Lyles. Did you know that the previous mayor of Charlotte was sentenced to 44 months in prison for pocketing fat bribes from real estate developers that were actually FBI agents? Former Charlotte Mayor Patrick Cannon, sentenced to 44 months in federal prison. The trend remains, doesn't it, Vi? She said everything they're doing right now to try and downplay and capitulate is because they're expecting a big fat windfall from taxpayers for public transit this fall, and this is going to ruin it. No more, no less. They think women getting stabbed in the throat is equitable. They have a lot of very generous people to pay back for their political funds. This upcoming referendum vote is intended to do so. That's the purpose of the 1% sales tax increase. Right here. They're very concerned. They need this 1% sales tax increase so they can pay off the bribes. And they're concerned that if there's violence, then they'll lose that sales tax revenue and they won't be able to pay off the bribes. She said, this is the premise, but I'm still writing the comprehensive report. This extends from city council to the governor. Charlotte's mayoral primary is tomorrow, so I'm starting with her first. They all have to go. And she says she's a really slow writer, so she's trying to put all this stuff out here so that people can light into it if they want. Haven't gotten the piece on it yet, but I'm going to be keeping track of this, and I'll read it as soon as she puts it out. And look at this. Today, federal court orders North Carolina to fix its voter rolls after 100,000 plus lacked proper ID info. You want to know how the entire Charlotte government is full of cravenly corrupt criminals who are transparently on the take while running cover for violent animals roaming the streets? This is how. This is how these people have been winning elections. Transparent fraud. This is why when the administration is pursuing all these voter fraud things, when they're deporting people, when they're ensuring that the voter rolls are cleaned up, they're addressing the crime issue. These things are one and the same. How is this not obvious? This is what I mean about consolidating power. If you consolidate power and you ensure that elections are unlosable for the Republican Party going forward, then all of these issues become much, much easier to solve. Because the only reason these people are in the place where they are to be able to set these criminals free, to unleash them on the population, is because they have been fraudulently installed through funding from NGOs like the MacArthur Foundation. So when they're going after the NGOs, when they're going after the college endowments, when they're shutting down USAID, they're solving the crime problem. Do you see how all of these things are all interconnected? And yet some people would have you believe, because they're not just like blunt instrument, like an ogre just whacking their way through the thing, they must not care about it. They must be ignoring it. They must be covering it up. No, they're attacking these issues comprehensively across more domains than even I conceived of. Cravenly corrupt criminal party. Ban the Democrats. Bankrupt them, arrest them, exile them, light them on fire. This here, of all of the clips, this was the one that really just kind of sent me spiraling for a little bit. I had to set everything down and go outside and smoke a cigarette and get a little nice breeze on my face and feel the sun on my skin, because this one just hit me straight in the gut. Whoop. Twice in the same episode? What is this coming to?
That I hope the family won't mind me sharing, but after Irina's death, the embassy in Ukraine called and said, "We'll help you bring her home." And her family said no. They said she loved America. We're going to bury her here. So I think we can give her an America to be proud of. As Mr. Barnacle said, something here is broken, and we're here to fix it. We're happy to take your questions.
Imagine being a Ukrainian family and going through everything that their nation has gone through. Nation, they're not even a nation. Everything that their region has gone through. Upwards of 1.7 million of their men killed. They're putting literal retards on the front line. Their daughter escapes to safety in the United States. As far as they must be aware, the United States has actively facilitated the destruction of their country. Their daughter escapes to the United States. And they watch video of her being stabbed in the neck on public transportation in the United States. And their reaction to it is no. We want her to be buried there. She loved America. These Ukrainians, this Ukrainian family, are bigger patriots than way too many of the people who have strong opinions about this whole thing. We can't let this be in vain. They need us to make this worthwhile. Think about the statement of faith in America that they're making. After everything that this nation has, to the most people, everything this nation has stood for and represented over the last couple of decades. We need to give them an America to be proud of. And I've never seen this guy before, Russ Ferguson. But I like him. We got another good one.
I don't see how you would see this case as political grandstanding. And if you do, I think you should have the conversation that we just had with Arena's family, because there's nothing political about that. This is a heinous crime, and we are going to remedy it. I don't know what the politics is here. If this was a political grandstand, there would be an opposite side to this. Is the opposite side, let's allow murders on our light rail? Is the opposite side, let's let people out of state prison so they can commit other crimes? There's no other side to this. There's no politics to this. This is a pure and simple federal case.
It's common sense. This isn't a political issue. We're not even going to redeem your Democrat bullshit by even granting the notion that this might be you might have a political case here. No. You're not even a legitimate political organization. You don't get a voice. You don't get a say-so in any of this. We're not debating any of this with you. This isn't politics. When we exercise power, when we promote the interests of the American ethnos, when we protect the American people, that's not political. You're the ones engaged in politics. You don't get a say in this. This isn't political. This is rulership. We are ruling. You can cry about it all you want. Go write it in your diary. Christian Haynes says, reminder that this was an anon who originally made this story go viral. The media never would have picked this up. They intentionally tried to bury it. But they're irrelevant now. The entire political consensus they manufactured is crashing down in real time. And all of you get to claim a part in making that happen. This was the tweet. One of the first ones. Baron von Rittenhouse. We shouldn't have to live like this. The moment in which a Ukrainian was slaughtered in America for being white. Shout out to our Pseudowave creator showing up in the chat or in the replies. And just for the sake of posterity here, this was the very first post here on August 23. Look at this. Barely any interactions at all. First one naming her. And wokeness was the first person in our sphere that really made it take off. First one with views over 100,000. And for the video, it would be this one here. Michael McCarthy, Punishable Press. First one to post the video. This is the reality of multi-ethnic societies. Biology matters. This should be obvious to anyone willing to see. Where's the outrage for Arena? It was Elon Musk who made this happen. Again, I don't care what you think about Elon. If it wasn't for Elon taking over Twitter, none of this happens. Matt Walsh. I want a witch hunt. I want every judge and DA who let this monster walk free arrested. I want them dragged in front of cameras and chains. I want their lives destroyed. And Elon, look at him showing up in these places. Matt Walsh makes an argument for why people convicted of armed robbery should be hanged from a rope 24 hours after being convicted. Look at our Daily Wire bro.
Our current system only gives capital punishment, and then only rarely, to someone who actually kills another person. But what about someone who, through their behavior, has shown a willingness to kill another person? What about someone who is willing to murder another human being just to take their wallet or their shoes or their car? What is the argument? What is the actual argument for waiting until that already violent offender actually kills someone before giving them the maximum punishment? I want someone to explain this to me. If a guy walks up to a woman on the street, or a man, points a gun at the person's head and takes their purse or their wallet, why shouldn't that guy be hanging from a rope 24 hours after he's convicted in a court of law? Why not? Don't give me some platitude. Don't just shout the word compassion at me. Give me an actual argument. It would certainly make our communities much safer if we started executing armed robbers. If we responded with that kind of brutal decisiveness to violent criminals, there's no question that it would make our communities much safer. So why shouldn't we do it?
This is exactly what I've been saying. Capital punishment needs to be much more expansive than it actually is. Anything remotely resembling a violent crime, capital punishment. Start chopping off hands. Start chopping off heads. That is compassionate. That is civilizational behavior.
Here's the question. Is the cost of having much more dangerous communities worth the benefit of keeping guys like DeCarlos Brown alive? Does anyone think the answer to that question is yes? So that the benefit is that we guys like DeCarlos Brown, we get to keep them alive. And the cost is that our communities are very unsafe and people like Irina die. What do we think about the cost-benefit analysis there? Look, I've been making this point for a long time. As a society, we have two choices. Okay, only two. Either we are going to inflict severe, merciless suffering on the criminals, the violent degenerates, the sociopathic predators, the dysfunctional, the barbaric, or we're going to allow severe, merciless suffering to be inflicted on the innocent. The women sitting on the train after work, the pedestrians walking their dogs in the park, the Uber drivers, the gas station clerks, and so on. One group or the other is going to be made to feel immense suffering. One group or the other is going to be met with brutality and violence. There's no third option, at least not for us.
This is exactly it. There is no third option. There is no option where brutality and violence doesn't happen. This is a fact of life in the fallen world. This is the longhouse, the great liberal lie, is that somehow we can have a world where there is no brutality and violence. When they do horrible things, we must do horrible things to them. And may God have mercy on our souls. The question is, who gets the horrible things done to them? The people who do the horrible things, or the innocent people?
Now, other countries may be able to find a middle path. Japan is one of the safest countries in the world. It's also completely homogenous. 98% of Japanese citizens are ethnically Japanese.
Uh-oh.
They are a small, homogenous country where everybody shares the same culture, same values, same priorities, the same fear of public shame and embarrassment. And yet, even in Japan, the death penalty is mandated in their penal code. They don't use it often, but when they do use it, the accused finds out their execution date on the day of the execution. And then they're taken off to be hanged without any further appeal. So Japan's secret sauce is homogeneity, with severe and lethal punishment dispensed on the rare occasion when it's necessary.
Homogeneity paired with severe and lethal punishment dispensed immediately on the occasion that it's necessary.
That is not our situation. We are a very big country. We are, as we're always reminded, very diverse. So we are left with the two options I just outlined. Severe, brutal, ugly punishment of the guilty, or severe, brutal, ugly punishment of the innocent. Either the former or the latter. To choose neither, to refuse to choose, is to choose the latter. It is to say that it is worth it for the innocent to suffer so that the guilty don't have to. And that's the answer that our system has decided on. It's decided that it's better for 1 million innocent women on the train to be butchered in broad daylight than for one violent criminal to be severely punished. And even worse, the people who give this answer have the nerve to call it compassion. It is not compassion. It is callousness in the extreme. It is monstrous cruelty.
Yes. God, the radicalization of Matt Walsh is delightful to watch. The dude's got a massive audience. He's got 3.7 million followers on Twitter. If Matt Walsh is talking this way, that's reaching ears. The times they are a-changin'. So ESR, Eric S. Raymond. I got that white girl. I got that white girl. Well, so much for not knowing the motive of the savage who murdered Irina Zalutska. It may surprise some of my readers to learn that I'm not entirely without compassion for the murderer. Life dealt him a shitty hand, too stupid to really function in a technological society, and then with delusional psychosis on top of that. This, I got that white girl. These are the words of a man who has long dreamed of committing racial violence against whites, for whom murder was a victory, a coup. I think these words ought to take the insanity defense off the table. We talked about this yesterday. The insanity defense should not be a thing. If there is an insanity defense, in the case where you would invoke the insanity defense, the answer is the person is put in an asylum for the rest of their lives. The murderer didn't babble about crystals or demons or space lasers. He knew what he was doing and why he was doing it. 15 years ago, John Derbyshire was canceled for writing an essay titled The Talk, non-black version, framed as safety advice for his mixed-race children. In it, he said a number of things about dealing with the presence of blacks in American society that I think are true, a few things that I think are probably false or exaggerated, and one which has stood out in my mind because I didn't have the evidentiary basis to have any idea whether it's true or not. I'll quote his point in full. Quote, a small cohort of blacks, in my experience around 5%, is ferociously hostile to whites. Ferociously hostile. That was weird. Ferociously hostile to whites and will go to great lengths to inconvenience or harm us. A much larger cohort of blacks, around half, will go along passively if the 5% take leadership in some event. They will do this out of racial solidarity, the natural willingness of most human beings to be led, and a vague feeling that whites have it coming. Now consider, I got that white girl, and the fact that the first public statements of the black mayor of the city where the murder took place oozed sympathy for the poor mentally ill murderer while not even naming the victim. I think we could safely describe the murderer as ferociously hostile, and the mayor as part of Derbyshire's 50% subset that willingly enables such hostility. What I've wondered about ever since The Talk is the size of the ferociously hostile cohort. On general principles, I was sure it's non-zero, because if you go far enough down the left tail of any normal distribution, you can find arbitrary levels of craziness. But I had no way of knowing if I can trust Derbyshire's 5% estimate, and still don't. I'm well aware that the sample of blacks I usually interact with is too skewed for me to make an estimate based on my experience. I usually deal with blacks in contexts like science fiction conventions, or professional meetings or martial arts training that filter heavily for intelligence and pro-sociality. They don't run as bright as the whites and Asians, but they don't give me any feeling of danger either. On the other hand, many years ago, I found myself on a night train from Trenton to Philadelphia, the only white in a car full of young black men. A gang. They bantered like they knew each other. Despite doing my best to be invisible, I was subjected to an escalation of hostile verbal taunting. They were working their way up to doing something. It was a couple of decades before I learned the term monkey dance to describe this kind of pre-violence ritual. I stood up to get off at my stop and had to push my way through hands that were shoving at me. I'll never forget the last words I heard before I fled off the train. One of them in a tone of command saying, "Let the cock go." Cock being short for Caucasian. I think I only narrowly escaped being beaten to death that night. Irina Zalutska was not so lucky. I still don't know what the size of the ferociously hostile cohort is. I do think it's time to abandon the taboo in polite society on recognizing that it exists and needs to be contained with violent and punitive measures. It won't do anymore to bandy excuses like mentally ill or oppressed. That way only leads to a lot more murdered women. This guy says, life dealt him a shitty hand. Bro, I love you, but this is as dumb as making up narratives for the crocodile when one eats a child. We coddle them like an endangered species, and they rape and kill innocent women all the time. Stop simping for predators, suppress that instinct. This is the person who doesn't deserve a voice. You can't read. You don't have, you're not capable of observing words written or spoken in front of you and translating them into meaning. He says, you misunderstand. Compassion for doomed losers like him wouldn't stop me from shooting one through the head if I were present and armed when he assaulted someone. One does what one has to present the proper incentives so broken people will keep their shit to themselves. This is orthogonal to whether one is feeling compassion or not. That's exactly right. You can feel compassion. Once upon a time, DeCarlos Brown was a little boy. He was born, his mother looked into his eyes, was happy to see him. He had his first steps once upon a time. He ate solid food for the first time once upon a time. He had birthday parties and people saying happy birthday to him. He was a little boy. The life that he led that got him to the point where he was is not a life that any of us would choose for ourselves. His father, maybe not so much. Well played, Nematoder. You can have compassion for them. You can love them. And loving them does not preclude killing them. In fact, killing them may be the loving thing. This is the thing about Christianity, the modern lib derivation of Christianity that says, oh, we just have to love everyone. And love means like convince ourselves to have positive feelings about them and facilitate anything that they want to do. This is bullshit. There's nothing Christian about that. Loving them may require you to kill them. Because killing them prevents them from doing worse things that will stain their soul further, that they will need to face the Lord about. When you kill them, you prevent them from committing the sins that they may have committed someday. And yes, when you kill them, even justifiably, it stains your soul. This is why you must go to confession. This is why soldiers who return from war are often excommunicated for a period of time. And they must confess. They must pray. And then they're permitted to receive communion again. Because the act of taking another person's life, even when justifiable, still damages your soul. And that has to be repaired. That has to be mended. Both of these things are true simultaneously. It's a terrible, awful tragedy when you have to kill someone. And you must go to confession for killing someone, even justifiably. And also, it is justifiable to kill someone. And in fact, in many cases, or in some cases, it is the loving thing to do, to kill them. And this should actually be pretty obvious unless you've been brain rotted by materialism. Yarvin has been gem posting today. He said, sure, life dealt him a shitty hand. It wasn't life, though, that put the Radio Rwanda grievance politics race communism in his second grade textbooks. No, the books didn't tell him to kill that Tutsi girl, just a hater. Schizophrenia did the rest. Authors still getting paid. This is a Yarvin Fed post. Yarvin is identifying the culprit here. The ultimate culprit is not the guy who stabbed the chick. The ultimate culprit is the people who framed his mind and set him loose. And if we are to rebuild our civilization, that is the demographic that must be dealt with. And another one, Douglas Mackey said punishment for this charge is up to life in prison, which actually isn't true. I just showed you guys it is actually life in prison or capital punishment. Yarvin said add a hate crime enhancement and throw him in a cell with Dylan Roof. Roof must be notified ASAP so he has time to bulk up and train. Special studio cell with multiple cameras, mics, and slow-mo. Pay-per-view 24/7 live stream with all proceeds to the families. It happened again. Chuck Dirk. I've been told Chuck Dirk is a cuck. Chuck Dirk doesn't care about America. Weird. Because here he is. It happened again. Another white woman was hacked to death over the weekend for no apparent reason by a suspect who is black with multiple prior arrests, including illegal possession of a sawed-off shotgun and removing serial numbers from firearms in Virginia. Julie Gard Schnueli, a former veterinary professor, had taken her dog for a walk in Auburn when the suspect, Harold Rashad Dabney III, allegedly murdered her by stabbing and stole her truck before being arrested the next day. Her dog stayed by her side until her body was discovered. Lower than a dog. Once again, if the races were reversed, the outcry would be instantaneous and apocalyptic, and yet you're probably just hearing about this now. Or here's this one that Austin just sent me. Here's a wild one. A black serial killer in California disguised himself with a white mask to conceal his black identity. An alleged serial killer who met his victims on dating apps before robbing and killing them had a lengthy California crime history that included wearing a white face mask to hide his black identity during a burglary spree. Prosecutors charged 34-year-old Rockham Prowell of Inglewood on Monday for robbing and killing two men he met on dating apps in 2021 and 2023. He allegedly also attacked a third victim in February of this year, tying him up, beating him with a baseball bat, and stealing his wallet. He was already on probation for two burglary convictions between 2019 and 2021, and was likely linked to as many as 30 break-ins across Los Angeles. There's a pattern here. During the spree, he attempted to avoid detection by sporting a creepy rubber mask that made him look like a young white man. Cops found the mask after pulling Prowell over in a car linked. The dude's name was Prowell. I mean, what the hell? It's unclear whether he wore the ghoulish mask when he allegedly seduced, robbed, and murdered 51-year-old Miguel Angel King and 53-year-old Robert Gutierrez before fleeing the scene of their cars. King was found dumped in the Angeles National Forest with a fatal bullet wound. Authorities never located Gutierrez's body, but his car was discovered in Prowell's garage. He allegedly tied up and tortured a third man, Jordan Andrews, 40, in February of this year, beating him viciously with a baseball bat. Andrews managed to escape, but Prowell rammed him with a car as the victim fled, breaking his leg. He now faces 2 counts of murder and 1 count of attempted murder, plus carjacking, burglary, and assault with a deadly weapon. He's being held on $2 million bail. Look at that! He's actually being held on bail. Why was he out? And this one, look at this. Elon tagging the governor of Colorado directly on this one. Colorado sheriff admits he was forced to release a very dangerous inmate from jail because of state law that requires criminals found incompetent to stand trial to be released.
It's a very violent crime, and how rapidly this person has accumulated contacts with law enforcement, it's concerning.
Weld County Sheriff Steve Reams is warning his residents of a man he released from jail, not by his own choosing, but because the suspect was ruled incompetent to stand trial.
With that ruling, we're forced to release that individual.
That individual is Debisa Ephraim, a 21-year-old who Reams says is seen in these videos fighting northern Coloradans. The videos, too graphic to be shown in full, show men being knocked unconscious and then continuously punched in the face while lying on the ground.
He's a very dangerous person, and his actions, from what we can tell, were unprovoked.
So why did he walk free without...
These videos are everywhere. These videos are all over the place. If you've been on Twitter for any length of time, you've had these things in your timeline. You've seen them everywhere. This happens constantly on a daily basis. We don't have to live this way. Living this way is a choice. and we are now choosing we are not going to live this way anymore.
Ever seeing a jury? Reams says it's the result of House Bill 1034, signed into law last year by Governor Jared Polis. The law, at its core, said those found incompetent to stand trial should be sent to mental health care instead of incarceration. But that is contingent on the suspect qualifying for that care, which Ephraim did not, Reams says. So Monday morning, he walked free from charges like attempted murder and the cell that he lived in for the last 5 months.
Think about this. He's being charged with attempted murder. He's assessed. He has found that he's retarded. He's too retarded to be charged with attempted murder. So they have the backup plan. Oh, you go to mental health care. Oh, you're not even qualified for that. What, are you too retarded for mental health care? How is he not qualified? Apparently somebody put some stipulation in there that would ensure that someone like this wouldn't even be qualified for that. So ordinarily he would be charged with murder. Instead, he's set free. Oh, we would charge you with murder, but you're too retarded. Have a nice life. Head back out on the street and go do some more murders. Nothing we can do about it.
This or the case that happened in Aurora with Solomon Galligan, those both are very giant highlights to the mistake that was made. It needs to be corrected. Someone's going to get hurt and someone's going to get hurt bad. All I can do at this point is make them aware that this person is out and about and pray that he doesn't re-enter those criminal actions. But quite honestly, without some legislative changes, I don't know how you address this concern.
Killerman says, black guy stabbed a white female veterinarian to death a few days ago in Auburn. She was my girlfriend's retired teacher. Yeah, that was the story that Chuck Dirk was just signal boosting that I just read about. This is Jared Polis.
It's a very violent crime.
The fag governor of Colorado. Look at that. He's got the gay flag, the fag flag. He's got the Ukraine flag, the other gay flag. He's got the globe. Elon's going straight to the source. Hey, what's going on, bro? Why is this happening in your state? How he replied, absolutely unacceptable. I'm calling on the county attorney and DA to use state law, including CRS Title 25 and Title 27, to ensure he's not at large. This should have happened before release, not after. Remove this threat now. Hey, I suppose that's better than defending it. But how the hell did this happen in the first place? Colorado is one of the most beautiful states in the Union. I would love to live in Colorado. I will not live in Colorado as long as people like Jared Polis are running the show there. They're destroying one of the jewels of the nation. And I'm pretty sure this is the last rage bait one, so bear with me here. ICE just arrested a Kenyan national convicted sex offender in Minnesota. Yeah, this story is just, it's like we're playing Mad Libs here.
Our first stop is an address in Plymouth. It's the home of a convicted sex offender and former director at the Minnesota Department of Education, who Alpha News exposed in June, sparking an online firestorm over the state's hiring practices. Wilson Tindy, a Kenyan national, was convicted of sexually assaulting a sleeping woman in the Twin Cities after breaking into her home. Tindy pled guilty to the crime 9 years ago. A judge ordered his removal from the United States. But a federal judge ultimately ruled that Tindy's removal was not warranted. Tindy spent 18 months in ICE custody.
Not warranted. He broke into the woman's home and sexually assaulted her, pled guilty to it. But a federal judge said, no, you can't remove him from the country. But just wait, it gets better.
And then landed taxpayer-funded positions at 2 separate Minnesota state agencies. After our reports, Tindy's status has changed.
We really have to go through.
Minnesota Department of Education confirms convicted sex offender no longer employed by agency. That whole story, and then he was hired by the Department of Education in Tim Walz's state. making $145,000 a year. God! Oh! The most Fed post inducing thing of all time. He's making 6 figures. Convicted sex offender, foreigner. Judge already tried to send him out of the country. And the Minnesota government hired him. Depriving an American citizen of making $145,000 a year so a convicted sex offender can work in the fucking Department of Education. How?
Our reports Tindy's status has changed.
We really have to go through, work with our legal team to make sure that the conviction would qualify for, removability from the U.S. So it did take us kind of a long time and a lot of research with help from our legal team, who are amazing. We did come up with a immigration charge because of his criminality. We do have, a warrant of arrest for him today. So, just praying all goes well and everyone remains safe during the arrest.
So this isn't a random pickup on the street today like the media likes to portray?
Right. Yep. It is not. Lots of hours went into this case.
ICE officers park blocks away to wait for the right moment to move in.
We're expecting him to leave the apartment, and normally he does go northwest when he comes out of there. So we'll be probably the third car back.
He was heading towards his apartment.
Within minutes, they're on the move.
They got lights and sirens on right now.
Walking up to the townhouse, Tindy is already in handcuffs in his garage next to his BMW.
Yes, Bloody Milk, if you oppose ICE, you want foreign sex offenders around school children. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Dude's driving a BMW. Launch him into orbit. All right, bear with me. We got a good palate cleanser coming here in just a second. We're going to need it. Eugipia says, due process, but only for IQ 130 Anglos. Will Tanner said, a jury of your peers only works when they actually are your peers and have bloodlines steeped in centuries of tradition surrounding personal honor and a sense of fair play. It does not work when the system is defined by procedural manipulation and in-group preference amongst members of a multicultural society. This is why Lee Kuan Yew got rid of jury trials. Of course, our judges are rotten too, which is another problem. And at the Herb said, yep, no jury of your peers can account for extreme in-group and out-group preference. Look at this chart. I've seen this chart before, but in this context, holy shit. How racial groups rate each other. Look where whites wind up. Blacks, Asians, Hispanics. Look at our Asians here, damning with faint praise. And then look at where whites rate themselves. Barely higher than Asians. Whites are the least racist, and look what we get for it. Yep. Look at that. Just look at that. Whites, blacks, Hispanics, Asians. White respondents. All the same. White people have fully bought into the colorblind society. No one else. And look at black respondents rating themselves. Hispanics and Asians are both about the same, right around 80. Blacks are up at 85. Are there any other interesting ones here? Blacks really don't like Asians. Somehow Asians rank blacks above Hispanics. That's surprising to me. Hispanics rate blacks and Asians the same. Everyone is racist except white people. But that's not going to last. White people are becoming racist again. And there's no problem with being racist. Having racial hatred is stupid. But being racist is a matter of existential survival. You've got to be able to observe patterns. You can't make decisions if you can't observe patterns. You were literally precluded from making judgments if you can't observe patterns. Being racist is simply observing the patterns and making decisions accordingly. Again, that's not the same thing as race hatred. Race hatred is retarded. It's low IQ, really. Like what it is, race hatred is when you can't, your IQ is so low that you can't sufficiently differentiate certain nested complexes of patterns. You just see one pattern and that's all you can see. Like I saw a black guy and he was violent, therefore I hate all black people. That means your ability to identify patterns is extremely low resolution. Race hatred is retarded. Racism is essential. It's essential for survival. And another from Chuck Dirk. A wild new scoop from Axios reveals that in the final days of the Biden administration, there was a mad dash by White House staff to find thousands of pardons and commutations, all signed with AutoPen, without giving DOJ lawyers a chance to vet them. The result? Biden gave clemency to a murderer who killed a mother and her 2-year-old daughter because the woman threatened to expose the man's drug dealing. Biden's White House lawyers basically refused to hear from victims, including those of 10 death row inmates who didn't even request clemency. They were on death row, didn't even request clemency, were given pardons by the AutoPen. Biden bragged to reporters that he pardoned or commuted the sentences of a record number of criminals, even as officials were kicking and screaming that many receiving clemency didn't deserve it. Why do Democrats have a pathological desire to help criminals over their victims? Truly disgusting. On January 17, just 3 days before leaving office, Biden granted 2,490 commutations, the most ever by a president on a single day. Biden said they were for people, quote, convicted of nonviolent drug offenses who were serving disproportionately long sentences. Biden boasted, with this action, I have now issued more individual pardons and commutations than any president in U.S. history. The old dude had no idea what was even happening. Weinsheimer continued, unfortunately, and despite repeated requests and warnings, we were not afforded a reasonable opportunity to vet and provide input on those you were considering. He proceeded to list some of those with violent crime records to whom Biden had given clemency, including a man who had pleaded guilty to charges relating to murder after killing a woman and her 2-year-old daughter after the mother threatened to reveal his drug dealing business to law enforcement. Liz Oyer, a Justice Department pardon attorney, expressed anger about the White House's interference with death row inmates. She wrote that Biden's White House lawyers asked DOJ not to request the views of the murder victims' families if the department hadn't already done so. Once again, the White House lawyers asked the DOJ not to request the views of the murder victims' families before they pardoned them. That included 10 death row inmates who hadn't filed for clemency before Biden considered it. After the extent of Biden's clemency actions became clear, Oyer wrote an apologetic email to U.S. attorney offices, according to multiple people who have seen the email. This investigation is ongoing. Eagle Ed Martin is now the pardon attorney, and this is all tied up in with Russiagate. People need to swing for this. All right. That's all the rage bait that I've got for you guys today. Now comes the good stuff. I understand it's late. What is it? 12:30. We've still got a bit to go, folks. Remember to tip your streamer. I've noticed that the tip jar is feeling awful empty tonight. Now I give you, from Agitprop Master, the pseudo-wave propagator himself, So some of you need to take a break from being racially outraged. Here, have some relaxing Wagner and a pretty castle. Now we can bring it back down. Oh. Thank you, Mr. Agitprop Master. I very much needed that. Very, very much needed that. God, I like fascism, man. That's the OG fash wave. Uncle Painter's favorite, the great Wagner. Oh.
The white man is back, baby. The white man is back.
We are so back.
Hell yes, Andrew Starr. Thank you, buddy. Thank you for the tip. Let's keep it going now. Look at this.
Look at my African American over here. Look at him.
Now you see this here, and like me, you might look at this image and go, no. But just wait. Michigan Judge Kristen Simmons drops all criminal charges against 15 individuals accused by Democrat Attorney General Dana Nessel of conspiring to overturn the results of the 2020 election. In issuing her ruling, Simmons said, quote, "The individuals, whether they were right, wrong, or indifferent, seriously believed there were problems with the election and they were executing their constitutional right to seek redress." There's a good one! We found a good one, guys!
The N-word.
Shout out to Michigan Judge Kristen Simmons. There's 15 individuals here whose lives have been a horror show for 4 or 5 years. And now, they get to go free. Yeah, note that. Her name isn't Ungabungwa Shaniqua. It's Kristen Simmons. Here you go. ASMR. From the DHS account. U.S. Coast Guard captures, burns, and sinks a drug boat. Over the weekend, as part of Operation Pacific Viper, the U.S. Coast Guard Cutter Stone conducted 3 interdictions in a single night, seizing nearly 13,000 pounds of cocaine and apprehending 7 suspected drug smugglers. We're getting ASMR I didn't even know I voted for. Wait for it. I'm literally the little peepo with the headphones. I was doing it there. My wife says, in case anyone was wondering, the squeaky chair lives on in the new house. Can you guys hear it? Idiot with a camera gets in ICE's way and lives to regret it. I voted for this. This is in East Boston. ICE in East Boston arrests an illegal and gets obstructed by people demanding to see a warrant.
Hey, why you arrested him? You have a warrant order or what?
Yeah, warrant. Yeah,
why you arrested him?
Get out of his way!
Fuck out of his way! Don't you fucking touch me!
Get back!
Step back! Step back! I will touch you! Step back! You're interfering with the investigation! Get back! We do not need one. And I do not need to show you one. Where are you fucking...
Yeah, we're on the sidewalk filming. Perfectly legal.
As long as you're staying back over there, you're fine.
Look at these patriots.
3 unmasked.
This guy's like, oh wait, shit, everyone's leaving? Okay, where do I go? Empty seat, over here. Oh, over there, okay. Gotta hustle. Oh, there he is. Okay.
Driving off right now. I can send pictures. I'll talk with somebody else who's facing them.
Got what I voted for again award. Your morning serving of anti-Bio-Leninist Kino.
That stick away, you pussy ass bitch! Put that stick away, you pussy ass!
Now that's the sort of black on white violence I can get behind. One more time. The fatigue. Our black police officers, our black ICE agents have white shitlib fatigue. Another appearance from Caroline Leavitt. For the fourth straight month, 0 illegal aliens were released into the United States in August.
New preliminary data released today by Customs and Border Protection in August shows that President Trump has delivered the most secure border in American history.
Thank you, Mr.
For the
President.
fourth straight month, 0 illegal aliens were released into the United States by CBP. Nationwide encounters are down 93%, below the peak of the Biden administration. Border Patrol apprehensions on the southwest border in the entire month of August were less than what was apprehended in 4 days in August 2024 under the Biden administration. President Trump has ended disastrous Biden illegal alien invasion, and he sealed our border in record time, keeping this central promise he made to the American public. New preliminary data released.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you so much. More good news. The experts were wrong. An aluminum plant has surged to nearly 100% production in South Carolina. We spent all this time talking about North Carolina. Look what's happening in South Carolina. Because of President Trump's tariffs, American men getting six-figure jobs as a result. Yes, this is what I voted for.
Boost. Senior correspondent Steve Harrigan joins us live from an aluminum plant in South Carolina. Steve, what can you tell us?
Jillian, President Trump put a tariff into effect in June of 50% on imported aluminum, and that has changed things around here in a hurry. At this smelter just outside of Charleston, you can see they are moving giant vats of molten aluminum. They're going to pour them into mold and then remove the impurities. Now, this smelter was working at just a fraction of its capacity.
We're going to take everyone with green hair and drop them into these giant vats of molten aluminum.
A few weeks ago, now it's almost at 100%. New jobs also, jobs that often pay six figures. And when you walk around the factory floor and talk to the employees, you find a lot of former military men who are proud to be working now in this industry. Like
employing
Chris
our
Murphy,
vets.
who served 2 terms in Iraq.
To do this job out here, you have to be physically and mentally tough. And the military obviously, helped with that. So I'm grateful for that.
Now, critics of the tariffs say it's going to cause inflation on a variety of goods, but supporters say it was absolutely necessary. It's the domestic aluminum industry. If you can't produce aluminum in your own country, it can be, executives say, a national security issue.
We know that Americans can compete, and we know that American aluminum production will be successful. As the president said, we don't need their aluminum. We need our own aluminum. We're going to produce it here at home.
Hell yeah, that's right. We don't need your foreign aluminum. Now, we talked about this story a couple of days ago. Major enforcement operation at the Hyundai Mega Site battery plant in Bryan County, Georgia, leading to the apprehension of approximately 450 unlawful aliens. This is a tweet here from ATF Atlanta. This guy, Matthew Chang, this guy here, you might look at him and think, but wait till you see what he has to say. I have a lot of thoughts about this. It was a warning to other companies. Relatively low stakes politically, because the world can live with the slowdown in Hyundai battery production, and most of the foreign workers were Korean. It was not a food factory. More on that. It was a strategy. A workforce of this size required intense coordination. This means it was a strategy of the company and site. The concentration of one nationality means it wasn't lax enforcement from the local hiring department. It was the strategy of the company. Who signed off on the employment? Certainly management at the factory and corporate were aware that foreign workers were being used. HR, management, and executive teams knew. Surely DOJ investigations are to follow. And he asked one of the AIs here, he said, what's the penalty for knowingly hiring illegal alien workers for the managers of the company? Answer, managers who knowingly hire illegal alien workers may face civil fines ranging from $716 to $5,724 per worker for a first offense, and criminal penalties including fines up to $3,000 per worker and up to 6 months imprisonment for a pattern or practice of violations. Back to the thread. This is a massive disruption to operations. This plant will no doubt be crippled or throttled by loss of this many workers, presumably skilled and trained. They traveled to America to work in this factory. Recruiting, training, and hiring local Georgians will take time. This is a warning to others. Other major production plants in the USA, most notably protein plants, are notorious for hiring vast numbers of foreign workers. But you don't start there because it impacts food prices in grocery stores. This is a violation of economic development covenants. The taxpayers of Georgia invested $2.1 billion in aid and tax breaks to attract Hyundai to Savannah. The formula tied to this incentive is employment. $5.4 billion in CapEx is planned at the site. Real quick, what he's saying here is that this sort of enforcement activity, there are protein plants, food plants, that have this same sort of thing. But if you start there, then you suffer the economic effects of these sort of factories having to shut down because it literally takes days or weeks to hire the people to do the job. If they're trained and they know how. So you're going to actually impact the food supply if you start there. However, if you do something like this at this Hyundai factory, it's going to have an effect on these plants. These production plants are going to recognize what happened there. Brian Kemp ran on immigration enforcement. He ran a famous and viral commercial saying he'd use his own truck to round up criminal illegals. His own state government intentionally turned a blind eye to the abuse of economic commitment from this site. Need to fire Brian Kemp into the stratosphere as well. Every company will have a Monday meeting about this. Just like the famous missile strike on a cartel boat this week caused emergency meetings of drug trafficking kingpins, corporations will have a busy Monday as CEOs ask, how many illegals do we have? Because no matter how corrupt those CEOs are, the one thing they do not want is their plants to be completely shut down and have a highly publicized raid and attract the ire of the federal government. So if something like this happens all of a sudden, all those CEOs are going to be like, okay, how many do we have in our factories? Let's get them out as quickly as possible so we're not the next one in the headline. The U.S. does not have the workforce to replace all foreign workers. This site is not unique. I travel to factories for a living. I've been to numerous bilingual plants or Spanish-only plants. Foreign workers suppress wages. It's 100% true that the use of foreign workers suppresses wages. The average factory wage for unskilled work is $18 to $25 an hour. It's hard to work at a factory and earn a living for your family. Robotics is the answer. In my company, Chang Robotics, we've been able to augment workers by 3 to 5x with robotics. The result is higher pay, better job skills, upskilling, and more job satisfaction. Robotics gives employees choice. If a worker develops the skills required to manage, maintain, and program robotics, they won't work in repetitive, back-breaking labor. Ergonomics is huge in safety and worker satisfaction. Let the robot do the heavy lifting. The most automated manufacturing is Germany and Japan. The reason for this is they did not have foreign workforces until very recently. To get the most out of their precious employees, the company had to give them the best tools, automation. AI has no hands, it needs robots. This shift in foreign worker availability comes at a time when AI is showing great promise to help in manufacturing. AI will do little for factories if it doesn't have the physical means to perform production. Robots. Rising wages for workers. As manufacturing becomes less manual and more automated, wages will go up. Higher wages means a growing middle class and more options for families to provide for their kids and a stay-at-home parent. Employment enforcement goes hand in glove with tariffs. Without tariffs, immigration enforcement would just mean more factories closing and more imports, growing our trade imbalance. We already have a deal with Korea, so it makes sense to start there. I'm bullish on the American worker. Young Americans are showing a high desire to work with their hands. Skilled trades are such a wonderful option. Automation is affordable. 10 years ago, as I was planning my company, automation and robotics were expensive. With today's technology, we're seeing paybacks. Work cells greater than 1 year, lines less than 3 to 4 years, material handling 1.5 to 3 years. Higher wages will only enhance these numbers. Supporting American workers is patriotic. My company is 100% domestic workforce, and we even build huge electric vehicles in the USA. If we can run complex robotic systems with American workers, you can too, no matter your business. We do import technology. I don't want to come off as holier than thou. We import high-end technology because robotics is a global game, and we don't have a complete ecosystem in the USA yet. The Chang Robotics Fund only invests in domestic companies with Made in USA strategy. Now, this point he made here, that the USA does not have the workforce to replace all foreign workers. This is true in a particular context. Here is the president weighing in on this particular context.
And you know, when they're building batteries, if you don't have people in this country right now that know about batteries, maybe we should help them along and let some people come in and train our people to do, you know, complex things, whether it's battery manufacturing or computer manufacturing or building ships. So we're going to look at that whole situation. We have a lot of industries that we don't have anymore, and we're going to have to train people. And the way you train people is bring people in that know what they're doing and let them stay for a little while and help. So I'm going to look at that. It's a very interesting situation that took place in Georgia. And we heard about it yesterday. At the same time, ICE was doing right because they were here illegally. But we do have to work something out where we bring in experts so that our people can be trained so that they can do it themselves. Does that make sense? Right?
Is it straining the relationship with Korea at all?
No, we have a great relationship with South Korea. Really good relationship. You know, we just made a trade deal. But I'm going to look at it because I understand exactly what they're saying.
So the subtext here is very interesting. This raid that happened was not something that Trump knew about or signed off on. He knew about it retrospectively because he's saying ICE did a good job because these are illegal aliens. These are people who are working illegally. They're foreigners working illegally. They got to be sent out. Which is interesting because you have the ICE is over-enforcing even potentially and kind of creating a little bit of a situation. He's like, okay, now these people who were here, yes, they came in on the wrong way, but we do need to have particular subject matter experts if we don't have that expertise right here, right now, which is part of the problem with offshoring everything. When you deindustrialize, you lose that expertise. It doesn't exist here in the country. So we do need some foreigners to come in if they're going to be teaching Americans how to do the job. So they're here temporarily to teach the Americans how to do the job. Then they go away and the Americans do the job. So reading between the lines here, it sounds to me as if this was actually created a little bit of an issue. You saw Korea was like, because they're like, well, we're investing this money and we sent our people over there to help you with this stuff, and then you rounded them all up and put them in chains and sent them out. But Trump's like, no, okay, ICE did the right thing. Yeah, they did the right thing. These people are working here illegally, so round them up and get them out. However, we do need a particular focused program so that for these things that we don't have the American expertise to do this right now, we need to draw on that expertise from wherever we can get it so that Americans have that expertise going forward. And so after this, he posted this. Following the immigration enforcement operation on the Hyundai battery plant in Georgia, I am hereby calling on all foreign companies investing in the United States to please respect our nation's immigration laws. Your investments are welcome, and we encourage you to legally bring your very smart people with great technical talent to build world-class products, and we'll make it quickly and legally possible for you to do so. What we ask in return is that you hire and train American workers. Together, we will all work hard to make our nation not only productive, but closer in unity than ever before. And all God's people said, thank you for your attention to this matter. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. I thought I had another thing on this, but it looks like I don't. So yeah, this is all I had for this for right now. So, and this is a real problem. Like this is the whole premise of like you offshore all these industries means that you're losing that expertise. You have to get that expertise somehow. Now, clearly, there's an opportunity for this to be abused. And this is a great role for our anons to stay honed in on this. This is a great chance for tactical chimping. Or strategic chimping. Sorry, we've sunsetted the tactical chimping term. We've acquiesced to strategic chimping. We must be prepared to strategically chimp on this, because clearly the intent here is the foreign companies invest in America. If we don't have American workers who have particular subject matter expertise on some sort of like batteries or semiconductors or something like that, we need to bring foreign talent over here to train American workers. Their purpose for being here is not to be taking jobs from American workers. Their purpose for being here is to train American workers so they're here temporarily and then they go home. And then American workers take over their jobs. This is fine, as long as that's actually abided by. And there's so much here that it's so difficult to... We're talking like you've got a country of hundreds of millions of people and all sorts of things going in all sorts of directions. This is where our guys can provide this service. Those who are close to these industries, those who have a way of hearing about what's going on, can be monitoring for signs of abuse of these programs. If there are companies, whether foreign or domestic, who are abusing these programs and depriving American citizens of jobs, then we can chimp about them. And the administration has shown that they will be responsive when we chimp. The wrong way to chimp is to say, oh, Trump betrayed us again. Look at that fucking Zio cuck. Oh, he betrayed us. Ah! No. If people are abusing the program, he's laid out what the intent of the program is. We encourage you to legally bring in your people. Our ask is that you hire and train American workers. So now we're getting foreign companies who are paying for American workers to be trained. Foreign companies paying for American job training. They're paying, covering the cost of building up the American workforce. This is a win. All right, I saw a couple of long posts here. Let me see what you guys are saying. Sluttermilk's Friedrich Listmaxing. He says, List talks about this in a similar context. Countries without much expertise need to get the training and tech from outside at first, before developing it themselves and then handling it without foreign help. He was talking about when to go from free trade to tariffs, but similar thing here. We need the expertise first, then we can tariff. Keep out the foreigners who did the training. Yes, exactly. Interesting. My wife said No Agenda played a clip from a black guy who used to work there at that factory saying no one should ever have been treated that way. The news spun it as if he was talking about ICE, but he was actually talking about the working conditions. Very interesting. Yeah, trust plans are. So many people have pointless financialist jobs. Retraining is necessary. And where Americans can do that retraining, yes, have Americans do it. But there are legitimately industries where, like there's people who've been signing alarm bells, been sending off alarm bells on this for a long time, that there are particular industries where the people who have the expertise in this literally do not exist in the country anymore. Because these industries have been offshored for so long now, that the people who had that expertise in the country have already died off. Or they can't find it. They don't know where they are. So for those sorts of things, yeah, we do have to secure foreign investment and foreign sponsorship of American worker training. And then we just have to stay on top of it so that it's not abused. Yesterday, we got this on Truth Social, a truce from our president. Happy birthday, Mary, Queen of Peace. And 48, quote, tweeted it with a crown. And Adrian Vermeule says, just wanted to note on one of my long-standing themes that back in 2015 or so, no respectable person would have imagined that one day the president and vice president would have been tweeting out reverence for the Queen of Heaven on her birthday. The putative limits of the political are mostly just the limited imagination of conventional opinion at any given time. These are the sorts of things that should make you stop, freeze in your tracks, and take stock of the situation. The president and the vice president are Theotokos posting. If you know what the word Theotokos means, you should recognize that there's no such thing as cynical Theotokos posting. Even if they're doing it for pandering reasons. Still counts. The president and the vice president are honoring the Queen of Heaven on her birthday. I do not care if it's being done cynically. Personally, I know it's not. But even if it was, I would not care. Yes, I want my public officials, especially the ones at the top of the governmental hierarchy, recognizing and venerating the Queen of Heaven. How could you possibly argue against this? What is wrong with you? Incredible things are happening. Trust Plansar says, Trump legitimately had a spiritual awakening after almost getting killed, in my opinion. Don't care what anyone else thinks. Yeah, I agree. There's been a number of reports coming out that say that he talks about heaven on a regular basis. I mean, he's old. He's old. And he's not going to be here forever. He's not going to be around forever. And he strikes me as the type who's not going to waste away slowly. He's going to be going max capacity until the day God calls him home. Appreciate him while we have him. But he absolutely had he confronted his own mortality. Many such cases. People have a near-death experience, and it totally alters them. Totally changes their perspective. And so many things that he said or done since then are totally consistent with that. President Trump just had HUD Secretary Scott Turner on the stage. Listen to this. This is the rhetoric that we're getting out of this administration. Now, today, in this moment, with everything that's going on, here is the rhetoric that the administration is choosing to put out. With an obligatory.
Look at my African American over here. Look at him.
Simple proposition. Think about this. What if 1 million people prayed for our country every single week between now and next July 4th? More specifically, what if believers all across this great nation got together with 10 people, friends, family members, colleagues, work associates, 10 people each week to pray for our country and for our fellow citizens? Let that sink in. 1 million people every single week, 10 people getting together to pray for our country and for her citizens. Think about the miracles that would take place over the next year. Think about the transformation that you and I could witness in communities all across the land. Sons returning to their fathers, daughters returning to their mothers, families coming back together, health being restored, financial needs being met, mountains being moved. Think about it. If 1 million of us every week got together and prayed for this great country, how many know that God is well able to do it? Amen.
Amen. We got black preachers praying and y'all niggas black pilling? Says Slutty Milk. I mean, how many times can I say it? We have the HUD secretary being put at the microphone by the President of the United States to encourage the entire nation to get together with one another, to pray for the nation. The Hood Secretary. I can't believe I didn't think of that. Slutty Milk, how does he do it? Not just praying for the nation, but praying for families to be reunited together. If you've ever attended an Orthodox liturgy, at every Orthodox liturgy, we pray for the president, for the armed forces of the nation. How many of you guys are going to be praying for the nation? How many of you guys are going to be getting together with each other to pray for the nation between now and July 4th? If you're not doing that, I don't want to hear shit about, oh, they're pandering. They brought up this 12-year-old boy. Look at this young Chad. Look at this young American.
Hi, I'm Shane Cias. I've been a Christian my whole life, and Jesus means everything to me. When I was in 5th grade, my school forced me to teach my kindergarten buddy about changing his gender using a book called My Shadow is Pink. The book said you can choose your gender based on feelings instead of how God made us. I knew this was not right, but I was afraid of getting in trouble. After my family spoke up, the school treated us badly, and kids started bullying me and my brother because of our faith. And the school did nothing to stop it. It hurt a lot, but I kept trusting God. I believe kids like me should be able to live our faith at school without being forced to go against what we believe. I hope no other family has to go through what mine did. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shay. Great job. That was delivered well, wasn't it?
Ah, my president is a loving grandfather. Look at him. Look how proud he is. And then this. We've got an administration that appreciates the value of symbology.
For thousands of years, the Bible has shaped civilization, ethics, art, and literature, and it's brought hope, healing, and transformation to untold millions and millions of lives. The Bible is also an important part of the American story. That's why I'm delighted to announce that just moments ago, I personally delivered the Trump Family Bible given to me by my mother. I remember the time she gave it to me. But it was used in both my inaugurations and also display at the museum, and I guess it will now be displayed right in the heart of our nation's capital, right here, and that's an honor. That's an honor.
You know the way he's talked about his mother, the way he respects his mother. And he is donating the Trump Family Bible given to him by his mother to be displayed in our nation's capital. This is the president talking about the Bible this way. Donating his own personal family Bible to be displayed in the American Capitol. We are back. This is what winning looks like. Don't let anybody tell you that this stuff doesn't matter, that this is just like token pandering or whatever. These are people who've been brain rotted by cynicism. Their brains have been microwaved by black pills. And this one really kicked off a storm. And I saw all the cynics out there decrying this. And you know what? I've realized so many of these cynics are just too autistic to understand the significance of these things, to read between the lines. They're literally just socially retarded. That's as simple as it is. They're too socially retarded to understand what's being said.
And I created the first ever Department of Justice task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias. And for those people that are a little bit naive or not well read, there is a tremendous anti-Christian bias. We don't hear about it. We don't think about it.
So the people who aren't aware of the anti-Christian bias are naive or aren't well read. What's the subtext here? Trump has been made aware of this. He's recognized this, and he's realized most people aren't aware of this. Most people don't pick up on this because the anti-Christian bias has been subversive. But he's going out of his way to highlight it. After wishing happy birthday to the Queen of Heaven on her birthday, after having his HUD secretary ask for people to get together and to pray for the nation and pray for the unification of families, after having a young kid come up and talk about standing up for his Christian beliefs publicly, after donating his Bible, his family Bible, to be displayed in the Capitol, he's saying, I created the first ever task force to go after anti-Christian bias. Most people may not be aware of it, but this is something that's a priority for me.
You hear about anti-Semitic, but you don't hear about anti-Christian. Now, you have a strong anti-Christian bias.
You hear about anti-Semitic bias, but you don't hear about the anti-Christian bias. I wonder why that is. Why would he be saying that? Why would he go out of his way to draw this contrast? Especially after recent comments he's made about how the Israel lobby sure isn't what it used to be. And they've sure not been doing themselves any favors. If you've followed Trump with any sort of closeness, you can read between the lines here. He does not need to spoon feed you every single thing. I mean, he keeps me in business because I could be the interpreter or whatever, so I guess I should be grateful to him. But for crying out loud, the amount of blackpilling and doom-fapping I saw over this, these people are sick. The doom-fappers, the cynics, the blackpillers. Fuck them all.
But we're ending that rapidly, I will tell you. It's a whole... We're in a much different world where Semitic is anti-Christian. For those people that are a little bit naive or not well-read, there is a tremendous anti-Christian bias. We don't hear about it. We don't think about it. You hear about anti-Semitic, but you don't hear about anti-Christian. Now, you have a strong anti-Christian bias, but we're ending that rapidly, I will tell you. It's a whole... We're in a much different world today than we were.
It's a whole what? It's a whole, you finish that sentence. It's a whole thing. This is a big priority of ours. To tackle this anti-Christian bias. If you listen closely, you can hear the thought process going on in his head. There's a whole big thing. Ending the anti-Christian bias and directly drawing a contrast with anti-Semitism.
Or 1 year ago. This is like a different place. And I created...
Right, Mr. Sue. He basically said the Jews run the world and they created the anti-Christian bias. If you haven't had your brain microwaved by autistic black pills, you can tell what he's saying immediately. And this, from the Department of War Rapid Response account. No longer the DoD Rapid Response, it's the DOW Rapid Response. Explicitly quoting the Bible on the same day. Be strong and of good courage. Do not be afraid, nor dismayed. We're getting explicitly Christian propaganda from our government accounts. Good night, Jeremy. Thanks for dropping in, man. We're almost finished here. Getting close to the end. Trust Plansar says this, paired with his recent statements about how Israel is losing influence over Congress, is a big tell. And this is what I'm talking about. When I said the other day, I think it was on the stream yesterday, that I'm beginning to realize that I think a lot of these guys, a lot of these black pill merchants are genuinely, I mean, a bunch of them are just bad faith. So leaving those aside, the bad faith, just launch them into the sun. Who cares about them? But I think a lot of them are really genuinely just underinformed. They're just ignorant. They legitimately are not aware of all of these data points. They're in a media bubble where this stuff doesn't make it in. They're not able to track these trends because they don't pick up on these things. All they see is the specific media points that they pick up on because, I don't know, maybe they're not deep in the weeds on X every day. They're not listening to Tom Luongo. They're not subscribed to the Astrolabe. They're not in the Discord. That's right. If you're in the King Pill Discord, you're well aware of this stuff. You are ahead of the curve if you're in the King Pill Discord. Kingpill.com. Shameless plug. But they're genuinely just ignorant, which is fine. It's okay to be ignorant. But you can't be ignorant and arrogant about the conclusions you've drawn from your ignorance. That's unacceptable. You must be mocked and shamed and bludgeoned into submission until you recognize that you are simply wrong. They're not able to track these trends because they're not aware of, like, Trump making these comments about the Israel lobby with the behavior in the Israel-Iran case and him getting really pissed off with Israel and then him talking about these sorts of things. So if you just look at these in isolation, yeah, you may not recognize the trend. You may not recognize the trajectory. But once you view the whole picture, once you step back and you observe the entire tapestry, I think our conclusions are impossible to not come to. Yeah, Trump's getting Jew fatigue. I mean, the dude's a real estate developer in Manhattan. Was the majority of his career. You think he doesn't know exactly what Shylocks are?
White man is back, baby! The white man is back!
Once again, all your favorite based streamers, the Substack writers, the posters. They don't know things. They don't read. They read headlines, offer impotent suggestions that means nothing, make a Jew joke, then repeat it the next week.
That's right, Rethuglican. So many of them. So many of the streamers, the Substack writers, the posters. They don't know things. They don't read. They look at headlines. They follow CNN. They take their talking points from CNN. And they assume, oh, well, I know more than CNN, so I can just kind of deduce things from whatever CNN says. And then I'm going to get my conclusions. And I'm going to write my incredibly intelligent, insightful takedown. But they're just ignorant. They're just wrong. Thank you, Rethuglican, for contributing to the streamer's salary. That's a good point, Trust Plants are. A lot of them only read theory. They're not seriously tracking events and putting things together, which is, I mean, I'm going to say, it's a lot of fucking work. It takes a long time. Every single day, hours dedicated every single day to tracking these things. You have to be able to you have to have some like mental agility here where you have to have multiple different threads that you're all tracking at the same time. And you have to be able to put something up on the shelf and let it sit there for a little bit while you're tracking other things, then pull it back down and then see where they connect to each other. It's not easy. It takes a long time. It's a lot of time investment, a lot of energy. Probably requires a certain measure of IQ. Most of these boys don't want to put in the work. They want to claim the credit. They want to talk a big game, but they don't want to put in the work. Breaking, a White House reveals President Trump has had 21 victories at the U.S. Supreme Court, 2 of which were today. This means 21 times the Democrats were overturned by the highest court in the land because their activist cases had no basis in less than 8 months. This is another one of those things that you might kind of sort of lose track of what's happening. You don't really have the perspective for it. But in less than 8 months, the Democrats have been overturned by the Supreme Court 21 times. In legal time, this is immense. 21 cases between Democrats and the president in 8 months, and they've been overturned. SCOTUS has emerged as the final line of defense against the judicial coup. Article 2 must stand. And here's the whole list of them. Nationwide injunctions. Washington, New Jersey, CASA. Transgender military ban. Third country removals number 1. Third country removals number 2. Ending federal DEI funding. Department of Education rifts. Multi-agency rifts. Alien Enemies Act habeas. Abrego Garcia. Terminating probationary employees. Terminating high-ranking executive officials. Revoking temporary protective status for Venezuelan migrants. Revoking parole status for CHNV migrants. Social Security data access. Rejecting intrusive discovery. Terminating CPSC commissioner. NIH funding. And immigration enforcement in Los Angeles. And shout out to our spaghetti American. Luong Gooners Unite. Tom says it's almost like there was something like, what's the word I'm searching for? A plan! Oh! Shout out to my Troosters and Luong Gooners out there. Tom Matthews says he had to get through the BBB horse trading phase, and yet no matter how many times this was pointed out, the Panicans couldn't resist shitting their pants every 15 minutes. Couldn't be me. No Panicans here. Not in the Astrolabe chat. We are a planned trusting community only. Now here's an interesting news thing that came through today. 2 million jobs from the last 3 years of the Biden admin have now been revised away. This despite the biggest debt issuance spree on record. You want to talk about pressure on the Federal Reserve to lower rates now? Look at this. Look at this graph here. Biden job revisions. 2 million jobs revised down. Now, I'll remind you. Remember Trump fired the commissioner of the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Because this is all just fake shit. They're literally just inventing stuff just to support whatever the regime priorities are. So he fired the BLS commissioner. But I haven't seen a lot of people talk about who he replaced her with. This is who he replaced her with. E.J. Antoni. Erwin John Antoni III. Shout out to my millennial bros. He graduated from St. Charles Borromeo Seminary, went to Northern Illinois University, earned a doctorate in economics. In May of 2025, he was promoted to chief economist for the Heritage Foundation. He contributed to Project 2025. On August 11, 2025, he nominated Antoni to be the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, following the dismissal of Erica McIntyre from the post. Now, who is E.J. Antoni? Well, according to the Washington Post, Antoni's LinkedIn profile says that in 2021, he worked as an economist for the Texas Public Policy Foundation, an Austin-based conservative think tank that fought to overturn climate change regulations. In 2022, he joined the Heritage Foundation, working as a research fellow. In May of 2025, he was promoted to chief economist for the Heritage Foundation. He's a contributor to Project 2025. In August of 2025, President Donald Trump dismissed the Commissioner of Labor Statistics, Erica McIntyre, hours after the Bureau of Labor Statistics released updated employment figures that suggested a slowing economy. Trump complained about the report's downward revision, which showed job losses in a stalling labor market. Trump alleged that McIntyre had manipulated the Bureau's data for political purposes, which is obviously true and has been done by the BLS for forever. Steve Bannon, a former senior advisor to Trump, suggested that Antoni should be nominated as Commissioner of Labor Statistics. That month, the Wall Street Journal reported that Antoni was among several candidates being interviewed to replace McIntyre. On August 11, 2025, Trump named Antoni as his nominee for Commissioner of Labor Statistics. The Wall Street Journal noted that, quote, past BLS commissioners have had extensive research experience, and many have climbed the ranks of the agency itself. Antoni doesn't fit that profile. Sounds like a feature, not a bug. He has not published any formal research papers since his graduation, and Antoni's fiscal policy dissertation that is on file at Northern Illinois University, quote, has earned one citation by the Texas Public Policy Foundation in 2021 while he worked there, according to reporting by the Wall Street Journal. Again, feature, not a bug. The National Review has said that, quote, Antoni is nowhere near qualified to be BLS commissioner, suggesting that Trump wants to hire a loyalist for the position because what, quote, Trump would like is a BLS that is biased in his favor. Again, feature, not a bug. The New York Times noted that economists from across the political spectrum, quote, found Dr. Antoni's history of distorting economic statistics to support partisan positions was more concerning than his lack of experience. The Nation has written that Antoni's track record is so alarming that many conservative economists have denounced the nomination, including some faggots. Following Antoni's nomination, images resurfaced of him in attendance at the January 6th United States Capitol attack. The White House described Antoni as a bystander to the events and denied that he was involved in anything inappropriate or illegal. Now, here's where it gets fun. The views section. In the summer of 2024, during a presentation that he led at the Heritage Foundation, Antoni told interns that, quote, women's IQs generally clustered around average scores, while men's IQs varied more between geniuses and low intelligence individuals, according to sources who spoke to the Washington Post. According to the Washington Post, Antoni, quote, repeatedly referred to Social Security as a Ponzi scheme in a 2024 radio interview. Antoni has also appeared on a podcast in 2024 where he advocated for sunsetting the Social Security program, saying, quote, you'll need a generation of people who pay Social Security taxes but never actually receive any of those benefits. He further stated that, quote, the people who are going to retire 10, 20, even 30, or certainly 40 years from now, I'm sorry, but the program is not going to be viable at that time. Starting to like this guy. In May of 2025, Antoni described the Bureau of Labor Statistics reports as a, quote, random number generator, and criticized the agency's performance in the Biden administration, describing the agency's numbers as being from, quote, the magical world of make-believe. Appearing on Steve Bannon's podcast War Room in July, Antoni stated that a commissioner of labor statistics appointed by Trump would result in more accurate information from the Bureau. In an interview with Fox Business in August, he suggested that the Bureau should report job statistics quarterly instead of monthly, after backing down from previous suggestions to suspend the reports altogether. Now here we go. Antoni has frequently used a painting of the German warship Bismarck as a background when conducting interviews. He once described the Nazi-era ship, which was sunk by Allied forces in 1941, as, quote, hard not to love. On August 18, 2025, Wired first reported that in the months prior to the January 6th United States Capitol attack, Antoni ran a Twitter account under his full legal name that promoted, quote, election denial conspiracy theories while talking about violent threats to those who stood in Trump's way, end quote. According to Wired, the account, quote, repeatedly used violent rhetoric to declare how far it was willing to go to ensure Trump secured a second term in office. One of the final posts made just hours before the assault on the Capitol commenced using, quote, violent religious rhetoric. I wonder if it actually has a source for what those were. Oh, fuck off with your free article bullshit. Does Gizmodo let me see what they are? The since deleted account known as Erwin John Antoni changed its username to PhD of Bombs Away. The account posted at least 5 sexually suggestive tweets implying that then Senator Kamala Harris had advanced her career through sexual favors. Shortly after Harris ended her 2020 presidential campaign, Antoni wrote, you can't run a race on your knees. He also referred to Christine Blasey Ford, the woman who accused Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault, as Miss Piggy. In February 2020, he retweeted a post titled, Advice for Women, How to Land a Great Guy, which instructed women to be in shape, grow your hair long, be sweet, learn to cook, and don't be annoying. The post concluded, angry feminists and simps will try to sabotage you in the comments. Don't listen to them. Listen to me. The same account reportedly used the handle Dr. Curtis LeMay, an apparent reference to U.S. Air Force's notoriously psychotic general who oversaw the bombing of Japan in World War II. Okay, doesn't look like we've got any other actual content from it. Went by Dr. Erwin J. Antoni III. Shared content from The Donald. The account is characterized as having been, quote, infused with a deeply hardline Catholic worldview and at times displayed misogyny and a knowledge of Nazi military techniques. This is the guy that Trump appointed to be commissioner of the BLS. CNN also reported that Antoni allegedly used anonymous aliases which shared strikingly similar biographical details, and that he left a digital trail on Twitter which reveals a pattern of incendiary rhetoric that veered frequently into conspiracy theories and misogyny. 100% our guy. How many of these do we need? This is the guy that Trump chooses to be the commissioner of BLS. Now, it's not because Trump necessarily knows about all this, but it shows you who is advising him, who he's listening to, what the environment is like around him. Speaking of the environment around him, let's wrap it up with this tonight. Very funny that Elon shares this article from Politico. I'm going to punch you in your fucking face. Scott Bessent threatens an administration rival. Our gigafag. A private dinner attended by dozens of, let me get this a little larger here. A private dinner attended by dozens of administration officials and close advisors to President Donald Trump was temporarily marred by a dramatic clash between two of Trump's top economic officials, with Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent at one point threatening to punch top housing finance official Bill Pulte, quote, in the fucking face. The Wednesday evening event was supposed to be one of celebration. It was both the much-anticipated inaugural dinner at Executive Branch, the ultra-exclusive Georgetown Club created by and for Trump world's uber-rich, and a birthday party for MAGA-friendly podcaster Chamath Palihapitiya. A long table for the 30-some guests was set up with top-of-the-line crystal in China. The guest list included Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler, Medicare and Medicaid Chief Mehmet Oz, plus venture capitalist David Sachs, Palihapitiya's partner on the All In podcast. But amid the cocktail hour din, Bessent lashed out at Pulte in an expletive-laden diatribe. The Treasury Secretary had heard from several people that the Federal Housing Finance Agency director had been bad-mouthing him to Trump, a person close to him said. He wasn't about to engage in chit-chat as if nothing was amiss. Why the fuck are you telling the president about me? Fuck you, Bessent told Pulte. Why the fuck are you talking to the president about me? Fuck you, Bessent told Pulte. I'm going to punch you in your fucking face. The scene was described to me by one eyewitness and 4 other people familiar with what happened. The only fact they disagreed on was whether it was Bessent or Pulte who initiated the conversation. They and others who described the conflict were granted anonymity due to the sensitivity of the situation. Pulte appeared stunned, and the tense encounter prompted club co-owner and financier Omid Malik to intervene, according to 3 people. But Bessent wasn't having it. He sought to get him kicked out, the eyewitness said. It's either me or him, Bessent said to Malik. You tell me who's getting the fuck out of here. Or, he added, we could go outside. To do what? Asked Pulte. To talk? No, Bessent replied. I'm gonna fucking beat your ass. Ah ha ha! Ah ha ha! Oh, nigga, you gay! Seeking to de-escalate the situation, Malik separated the men, walking Bessent to another part of the club to calm down. During the seated dinner, Bessent and Pulte were placed at opposite ends of the table, and the party went off without further episode. Bessent, Pulte, Malik, and the White House declined to comment. The confrontation, which one Trump insider called bonkers and another called unhinged, underscores the surprising tensions between top Trump officials tasked with working on the nation's most sensitive economic matters. You know what this is? This is what happens when you've got a bunch of alpha males all in one place. It just so happens that one of the top alpha males is a gay guy, a gay academic, a heritage American.
Okay. What kind of American are you?
I'm a Scott Bessent American. I don't know about you guys. Trump announced in May that Bessent, Lutnick, and Pulte would collaborate on a plan to privatize Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, the federal housing finance organs Pulte oversees. In recent weeks, Pulte has taken the lead on an initiative that could put as much as 15% of Fannie and Freddie on the public markets. But behind the scenes, the 2 men have clashed in something of a turf war over the mortgage giants, as well as other economic matters, 4 Trump insiders told me. Bessent believes, some of the people familiar with their conflict say, that Pulte has inserted himself into matters the secretary views as his jurisdiction. Pulte, they add, has bristled at the threat of being big-footed. Complicating, I think, Big-footed is a term I've never heard before. Is this Politico's way of saying big-dicked without saying big-dicked? Because that's what that is. That would be Pulte not wanting to be big-dicked by the gigafag. The queer who smears. Just playing song. Slutty Milk says, Perry Abbasi knows all about gathering alpha males in one place. We must consult the expert. Complicating the entire dynamic, according to Trump administration allies closely following the drama, is Pulte's close ties to Lutnick. The Commerce Secretary and Bessent have had a rocky relationship since the transition, when the two men competed for the Treasury position. That has injected significant distrust into anything the trio work on together. And I'll bring your guys' attention back to the moment during Bessent's confirmation hearing when, who was it? It was John Cornyn, I think, who brought up the settlement facility for U.S. Treasuries out of London that was being proposed. And Lutnick was apparently one of the people involved in that. And Bessent said, yeah, you mentioned this to me privately, and we're going to be getting to the bottom of that and finding out what the deal is with that. So it's not surprising to me to learn now that Bessent and Lutnick have not been on good terms. And Luongo was saying repeatedly leading up to the election, or between the election and the inauguration, leading up to the inauguration, that the transition team was getting fed up with Lutnick, that he was he's kind of on a short leash. That has injected significant distrust into anything the trio work on together. It's why Bessent, who feels he doesn't have time for drama and backbiting, given his massive portfolio, according to the person close to him, hit the roof when he saw Pulte Wednesday. Both men enjoy close relationships with Trump and are known within the president's orbit to openly jockey for influence and power, albeit in different ways. Bessent, who comes across publicly as soft-spoken, has won Trump's trust as a soothing presence for jittery markets amid the president's unpredictable plays on tariffs and other economic issues. A cautious operator who's been called a moderating influence on the administration, the billionaire former hedge fund manager has overcome his past association with Democratic megadonor George Soros and is now considered one of Trump's closest allies. Meanwhile, Pulte, the brash 37-year-old with 3 million X-followers, has taken a more pugnacious tack in his lower-profile job. The scion of a family that made a fortune building homes, he quickly fired more than 100 Fannie and Freddie staffers as he took direct control of the key housing finance entities, often rolling out new initiatives on X. In recent weeks, his stock at the White House and in the MAGA universe more broadly has risen as he has used his post to launch mortgage-related investigations into several of the president's critics. His efforts to target Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, alleging she sought mortgages for multiple primary residences, have redoubled pressure on the Fed as Trump presses for lower interest rates. Trump moved to fire Cook, a Joe Biden appointee, last month. She has called the allegations unsubstantiated and is suing to challenge her ouster. The case is pending. If I had to guess, I wouldn't be surprised if Bessent is largely or exclusively responsible for feeding some of this data to Pulte that Pulte has then publicly released. Because I'm very, very inclined to believe that this Lisa Cook information was not a blindsiding to Jay Powell. I would be surprised if Jay Powell was the one who gave the information to Bessent in the first place, when they meet for breakfast or lunch or whatever every week. So I could totally write this story in my head where Powell gave the info to Bessent, Bessent gave the information to Pulte, Pulte went public with it, and now Pulte's trying to big dick, and Bessent's like, listen, you little pissant, I'm the one who gave you that in the first place. So why don't you back the fuck off and stay out of my territory? It blows my mind that Pulte's only 37. The dude's my age. Holy crap. Relatedly, Bessent and Pulte have been on opposite sides of the debate about whether Trump should fire Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. Bessent, as my colleagues Megan Messerly and Victoria Guida scooped earlier this year, had privately cautioned that such a decapitation would destabilize financial markets. Pulte, on the other hand, has repeatedly called on Powell to resign and has taken the position that Trump has the power to fire the chair for cause based on his alleged mismanagement of costly Fed headquarters renovations. Pulte even gave Trump a draft letter firing Powell, the Washington Post reported in July. Wednesday's dust-up also wasn't the first time Bessent has gotten into an altercation with a fellow Trump official. In April, he confronted Elon Musk just outside the Oval Office, accusing the tech mogul, then running his Department of Government Efficiency initiative, in a profanity-laden tirade of going behind his back to secure his chosen candidate, Gary Shapley, as acting IRS commissioner. Bessent was pushing for another man, Deputy Treasury Secretary Michael Falkender, to get the job, and eventually got his way. Falkender left the department late last month after just 5 months on the job. Interesting. I didn't hear about that. What does this have? What do we have here? Hold on. Let's open this. Take a little detour here. Michael Falkender oversees the department's operations and is leading a broad policy portfolio that spans tax, international finance, sanctions, and financial regulation. Treasury Department second-in-command Michael Falkender will leave his post less than 5 months after being confirmed by the Senate. I would like to thank Deputy Secretary Falkender for his dedication and service. Since January, he's played a critical role in overseeing the U.S. Department of the Treasury's operations and executing on President Trump's bold economic agenda, said Bessent. His important work has supported the passage of the historic One Big Beautiful Bill and Genius Act and the leveling of sanctions against our adversaries. Falkender, the Deputy Treasury Secretary, oversees the agency's operations and has a broad policy portfolio that spans tax, international finance, sanctions, and financial regulation. He was previously finance professor at the University of Maryland's Business School and served as chief economist at the Trump-aligned America First Policy Institute. A Treasury spokesperson did not immediately provide any more details about the departure. Two people familiar with the situation confirmed his exit. He briefly served as acting IRS commissioner earlier this year, following a dramatic dispute within the administration between Bessent and Elon Musk over who should oversee the tax agency. Falkender becomes the second senior Treasury official to depart in recent weeks. Billy Long, the Senate-confirmed IRS chief and sixth leader of the agency this year, was removed from his post after less than 2 months on the job. Bessent is currently the acting IRS commissioner. A top aide to Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin during Trump's first term, Falkender played a key role leading the Treasury transition team after the 2024 election. Falkender began working as a senior advisor at the Treasury at the beginning of the administration in January before he was confirmed by the Senate to the number 2 job. The Senate confirmed him on a 53-43 vote along party lines. Very interesting. All right. Very last thing. From Bucko Capital. How Bessent operates every day with the dumbest coworkers to ever grace the White House.
Yeah, you guys fucking suck at your job. I'm gonna come down there and beat the fuck out of you, you fucking stupid bitch. All right, I'll be down in 10 minutes. Get ready. You better start stretching. I'm gonna fucking wear you out, dumbass. 10 minutes. Parking lot, pussy. Yeah, you guys fucking suck at your job. I'm gonna come down there and beat the fuck out of you.
Did you guys lose me? What the hell's going on? Still live. Oh yeah, it says reconnecting.